Evening, people. It is I, Bo Gundam. I'm back in front of a video. So, today, instead of talking about anime, me and my buddy, Perik P, are going to be talking about the Star Wars prequels. So, if you like Star Wars, this is where the fun begins.
Hello there, people of the internet. This is where the fun begins. All right.
Yeah.
So, uh, where do you want to start, I
I,
suppose?
I I think we should just start off, like, the context of where the prequels came from. So, originally, Star Wars movies came out, I think, like, the late 70s, early 80s. And they're like,
I think so. Yeah.
super popular. Like they're
Oh yeah.
basically like space crack, right? And then 20 years after, George Lucas decides to do his prequels, right? And he talks about how he's going to go into the origins of Darth Vader. And I think I read an interview where people were like, oh, they thought the first movie was going to be like, Darth Vader, like, chopping people's heads off and shit like that. But then when George Lucas is like, oh no, we're going to be going back to the beginning when, like, he was a child. Um, and
Yeah.
and I think a
Back
lot
to
of people,
when
yeah, like, I think
so
it's like,
so far back that he doesn't even like do much in the first movie. Well, except for the giant space station that he blew up as a
yeah, we'll
friggin'
get to that in a
10-year-old.
yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, so just the prequel trilogy, I think, had a very, like, rough ride. Um, for many reasons. Now I would like to state this, that I grew up around the prequels. Like, I was old enough where I saw Revenge of the Sith in the theaters, and I also watched, like, Attack of the Clones. I think I might have seen Attack of the Clones in the theaters, or I might have seen it on VHS tape or DVD. But I remember seeing Revenge of the Sith in the movie theaters when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and
Mm.
it had some of the most, imagine watching that shit at age 10 or 9. Like, I was like 9 or 10 or something like that. Like eight,
Oh yeah.
9, 10, like around that age, right? Like, I was pretty young. Like, I was young, but like when I watched it, it's like, this movie is fucking crazy.
it was it was definitely the best out of all the three of them. Like, honestly, um I contest that Revenge of the Sith, even though I think it doesn't hold up as well as like any of the original trilogy.
Oh, fuck
It's
no.
definitely not as bad as a lot of people say it is, or at least compared to like the other prequels. It's
I,
definitely the
I,
best
I
out of
don't
the
think
three.
I think the prequels are like diamonds in the rough, right? I just think they need, like I think I think there's good shit there. It's just like, it just needs like another draft or two, right?
Yeah, there's good stuff here. Like a lot of the stuff about Anakin's character and just like his there's like good stuff. It has a very solid foundation. It's just the execution that is not quite the best. But
Yeah,
like
and
there's
I
good
would say the
stuff that, like
books. Yeah, I'd say the books kind of fix a little bit of these issues, but like, anyway, so back into the prequels, right? Phantom Menace comes out. It's not what people expect. Attack of the Clones, kind of like middling,
it is
and then you have like Revenge of the Sith, which is like, holy shit, like,
yeah.
uh,
Step up, but like by that time,
the damage
the
has been
well had
done.
already been the damage had been done.
I mean, to talk about how bad it is, like, we'll go into some of the actors, right? Like, the guy who, like, voiced Jar Jar, I think almost fell into depression. Like, Natalie Portman and, like, Hayden Christensen's, like, careers took a massive hit. Speaking of Hayden,
Yeah.
apparently he's making a bit of a comeback in recent years, which I think is good. Apparently he's,
Which is probably like that's probably the only thing good that came out of the sequels, is that like now that there are movies that are so much worse than the prequels, people have begun to reappreciate them and have started to kind of find things good about it. And I feel like that is what catapulted Hayden Christensen's his return as like Anakin, albeit not like in any particularly good shows either. But like he has played. I know he's played Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan show, as
yeah.
has the Obi-Wan actor. I forgot what his name is.
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, and I think they've also done. I think he might have also played Anakin in like an episode of Rebels. I don't quite remember. I could be entirely wrong though. It could have been
Yeah, well,
the Clone
apparently I've
Wars.
heard that he's doing apparently signed onto a major picture deal with, like, Universal Studios and some other stuff. So it seems like his career is making a comeback, which I think is good, because like, when I was on a prequel kick, I was looking at some of the actors. I was like, well, this Hayden Christensen guy is actually like a nice guy. Like, I just feel
Yeah.
we'll go a bit to the acting later, right? But like, I don't think it's entirely his fault, right?
No.
Like, there's
The,
definitely, like, we'll go into like his acting and stuff later, but like, I just want to say, I don't think he's I'll just preface this, I don't think he's a great actor, but I don't think he's terrible either. I just think he got, like, fucked over by being put in bad movies or roles that didn't really fit him very well. But we'll go into that later.
and And scripts that also just
Yeah, scripts. I mean, for example, Natalie Portman's career took a hit, right? And are we gonna call her like a terrible actress?
no.
No,
No.
fuck no. I mean, even if I think Natalie's maybe only made like maybe a few bad movies, but like out of a dozen, like out of like how many she's done, like most of them are pretty good, if not.
Mm.
Like, have you seen Black Swan?
I have not seen Black Swan. I've heard a lot of good things about it though.
Yeah, I've watched like the first half of it. I need to go back into it, but like I was fucking genuinely surprised of how like fucking creepy and unsettling she comes off in that fucking movie.
Hmm.
Like full
Yeah,
on like crazy. Like yeah, I'm sure Natalie's a nice person, but this Nino girl she plays like is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, I think I've heard YMS talk about that movie. I might have to check that out at some point.
It's
But
fucking good, man. Like it's unsettling, it's
yeah,
creepy, and like she does an amazing fucking job. Like she comes off as so fucking creepy and unsettling. You're like, oh god, is that? Oh god.
yeah. But and a lot of the acting in the prequels, I feel like a lot of the biggest problems is just that they are trying to act out a script that is written in a way that I don't feel, is dialogue that like not real people would say. I can't really think of like one off the top of my head. I think some of the big ones I think
Like
are when
scene.
that's definitely one of them. Um
Like it's sort of like okay. I just want to actually I'll mention this now. And we'll get back into like the prequels now. I think like what George Lucas is trying to go for, I think works a lot better in book format, right? Because I think because a lot of the stuff is going more like, especially with that fireplace scene, is going for more like classical vibe, like how if you ever read like classical literature and shit like that, that's kind of how they talk. And like I can see what he's doing, but I think there's a massive disconnect here because not everyone reads like classical literature, or
Yeah.
because most people's modern people, because the modern person's ears, right? That sounds really disjointed. But if you read any like classical literature or stuff like that, it'd be like fine. I think what the dialogue he was going for works a lot better in book format rather than two actors on screen. Like even if Hayden and Natalie were the best ever, I don't think even they could pull it off because it feels just so unnatural. Like it feels so unnatural the way they.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I wish I could like think of some. It's not like it's 100% that way, but like there are a couple of times. I wish I could name one just kind of off the top of my head. I think I feel like the confession is one that felt off to me. I'm not quite sure how to explain it, but like when in Attack of the Clones, when
When the
Padme is
and she's in the friendship outfit.
yes, that's oh god.
I'm like, huh? What is George? It's like, yeah, like like fireplace BDSM outfit. Like, what, George? What are you trying to tell us here, George? Like,
Yeah. Then there's instances where like Padme is like, "Stop looking at me like that. It makes me feel uncomfortable." And then you just have like Anakin peering over and you're just given the creepy smirk. I feel like that was like one of the few times that I've actually been like, Anakin, you gotta just stop. Just...
well, actually, we'll go. In the books, those scenes have a lot more context, and we'll go into that bit. So, starting with the Phantom Menace. Let's just talk about the Phantom Menace. So I'm just gonna preface this. I would say the Phantom Menace is like my least favorite of the prequel trilogy, just because it's kind of like, okay, I like the setup, right, and like the political stuff, right. Like I like the politics and the economic stuff. It's just I think this is not. It's just not really told much in an engaging way. And also, I think some of the scenes like drag on way longer than they should, like the pod racing scene. And this is like a thing that like because I recently rewatched the prequels of a friend of mine from Bulgaria, and he mentioned how like the pod racing scene and other certain scenes like drag on for way too fucking long than they should.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. The pod racing scene was definitely one. I think it is very visually interesting. Like it's interesting. It just does kind of feel like it could have been, that kind of visual flair could have been spent on like something else. Or doing something else. I'm not quite sure exactly what that could be, but it felt very kind of pointless to a degree because it was really just kind of like here's a side quest on our way to do the real stuff here. It felt a lot less significant in a way. That said, it still looks cool as shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did feel like it was wasting a lot
Yeah,
of time.
and
For
also
me,
the other. Yeah, and the other thing they kind of dislike the movie is that, like, okay, it's cool we get to see, like, Darth Vader, right? Like,
mm,
before he became Darth Vader. But the thing is that, like, Anakin almost feels like a side character in his own, like, story, because the original, like, saga is about him. For all well,
yeah,
you could I would argue that Anakin and Padme are like the main characters of like the original like whole Star Wars saga. The original six movies.
yeah.
I would argue they're the main characters. Um, because there's arguments that like Padme has a much bigger impact in the original trilogy than you would first think, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Um,
Yeah. I don't mind as far as like him not being the protagonist in episode 1. I don't mind Qui-Gon being like more of a protagonist in episode 1 just because it makes the Duel of the Fates seem that a lot more impactful. Cuz it really, in a way, it also just makes like both the scene and the song Duel of the Fates really impactful, because like the whole point is that that duel is supposed to determine like the fates of everyone in the galaxy, because
yes,
it's roughly implied, and I it's one of the few things that I actually really like about the Phantom Menace, the fact that Qui-Gon was such an influential, or like such an important person in Anakin's life, that whether he would live or die would define basically whether or not he would become Darth Vader, because he was the one Jedi master who actually believed passionately and vehemently that Anakin would be the chosen one to bring balance to the Force, when everyone else was saying, we're not going to train him. And he was going to do all that. He was going to personally train this boy. And then when he died, he was never able to do that. And Obi-Wan, who had only just become a true Jedi by the end of the movie, really did not understand what it meant to be a Jedi Master. And you could see that too in like Attack of the Clones, where he belittles Anakin a lot because he's trying to mimic what he thinks is like a Jedi Master is supposed to be, and not being like the proper mentor to Anakin that implicitly Qui-Gon would have been, and
yeah, because I
because of
think
his
Dave
death.
Filoni I think Dave Filoni talks about this, right? Like Duel of the Fates,
Yeah.
just between like I think an interview. I'll link some blogs and stuff like that, but I think like Dave Filoni basically states that it's basically the duel over two father figures. It's going to be Qui-Gon Jinn and then the Phantom Menace, which is Palpatine. These two father figures, because I think if Qui-Gon was alive, I think maybe things wouldn't have turned out as bad as they did. I still think,
Oh no.
okay,
Yeah.
I still think the Republic is fucked and the Jedi Order are fucked, but like maybe when it comes to Anakin and some other characters and Padme, I don't think
Well,
things would have gone as bad as it got. But we'll get to that when
if
we get to the meta
if
topics.
Yeah, if the Jedi had like just a few more brain cells when like the entirety of the clone conspiracy is being laid out in front of them, I feel like they could have survived, like whether or not Qui-Gon would have lived. But
Yeah,
that's
true,
also
but
for
yeah, true. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get to the
yeah.
meta topics. But you can kind of see that the road to hell starts here in the Phantom Menace. And by the way, also I love like the scene where Anakin and Padme meet for the first time, because Anakin's like, yeah, I need to get off this fucking look, dude, little Anakin's based me. He's like, yeah, I need to get off this fucking planet now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is
Are you an
fucking,
angel?
yeah.
Like smooth.
Yeah, great. Well, yeah, and plus he's 10, so it's like, you could just like brush it off as being like, oh, I'm just a dumb 10-year-old. But yeah.
Yeah, he should have rolled with that in Attack of the Clones. Like, are you an angel? I saw the angels; they weren't as pretty as you. Like, you should have rolled with that, man.
I have flown with them. They were all right. um, I think going back to like something that you said earlier, I think that when you actually like manage to, because a big thing that like a lot of other people criticize is the politics, and
I actually
I
like the
think that
politics because, like, so fun fact actually. So like the Clone Wars and all that shit, like the massive galactic civil war, right?
Mm.
Originally, that was actually going to start sooner, but the thing is that Anakin and Padme basically put a gear in some Palpatine's plans, which is why we'll go into this later. That's why he's planning on destroying them, both of them. Like, now it's personal. It's like, oh, these two little shits got in my way. Because fun fact, Palpatine also groomed Padme as well.
Oh, really? Wait,
Yeah,
in
he
what
groomed
way?
her too. He groomed her too.
Like in the books, you mean? Like in what way?
In the books. So if you want to know partially of how Padme reached the position she did, this kind of comes up in the Plagueis novel a little bit, like of the Phantom Menace. It's kind of implied in the books as well. Is that he may have pushed things along to get her in charge. So So yeah, she did earn that position, but he is also partially responsible for helping her get that position as well.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess that makes sense. I think that the
Yeah,
main
so
thing about the
yeah, he
politics
also
that
he also like because it's also mentioned in Attack the Clones that she also worked as like his assistant as well before she became
ah,
queen as well. So like yeah,
gotcha.
she's also been groomed by Palpatine.
Yeah. I think because I think that there is when you actually pay close enough attention, I think that there is sense that you can make out of the politics in episode one. I think the problem
Yeah,
is that like you have
well,
to look very
let me
closely.
let me get to my point right. Like basically, the Clone Wars was supposed to happen like 10 years earlier, but you know because since Anakin and Padme put a wrench in his plans, he had to like delay things because that's the thing with Palpatine. He's very flexible. He's like, all right,
Gotcha.
road bump, we'll avoid it. But that's what. But I think the politics really does set the stage for the ongoing conflict because, and we'll talk about this more in the meta discussion. But you do. It is heavily implied that not all is well in the Republic. You know, there's fractions and corruption and all that stuff. And the funny thing is about like Palpatine is that yeah, even though he is like corrupting people and all that shit, he isn't the source of the corruption. He's like a symptom of it as well. He's just like making it worse. He's like a cancer that's like eating away at the Republic. But like he's already exposing like issues that are already there. And I think the Phantom Menace does a great job of setting this up, right? Like, first it starts off small, right? First it's trade disputes, then it's backroom dealings, and then it's like, disgruntled it's the escalation of things.
Gotcha. So when you say that they had the Clone War was supposed to start in episode one, you don't just mean that in the sense that like the writers were originally going to do that and they changed it. You actually mean like in universe,
Yeah,
it
in
was
universe.
like Palpatine had planned on. Okay, because that's kind of interesting because like one thing that I always thought was that I feel like
the clones may have came in like a little bit like later on, but like the startings of it was supposed to be in like the Phantom Menace essentially.
gotcha.
So basically, where Attack of the Clones started, like with the Separatist movement, that's when it would have started in the Phantom Menace, like the early beginnings of that.
Gotcha. Because what I mean, in a way, I almost kind of wish, like, just from a narrative perspective, that was how it happened. Because, like, with the way that things happen as they are, the fact that the Clone War really only starts at the tail end of Attack of the Clones and then is resolved in the next movie kind of implies that this gigantic, massive, full-scale galactic war really only lasted 3 years. And I mean, for like a normal perspective, like from our perspective, 3 years doesn't seem like a terribly short amount of time for a war, but like the fact is this is a galactic war. This isn't like, like the American Civil War lasted longer than that. Both world wars lasted longer than that.
I think the other thing is that like compared to like modern day, like if we're talking like ancient battlefields, like wars could last for years. I mean, let's take the 100 Years War. Well, it's actually more than 100 years, right? But like, if it wasn't for like the Black Death and other things, it possibly would have ended quicker or gone on longer. But the thing with like modern warfare is it's actually like incredibly quick. Like in ancient times, like a siege could take years, months or years. But like I think the Clone Wars was a little bit too short. But we'll like
well, considering that this was supposed to be a war that was going to orchestrate Palpatine's rise to power, his gaining of power to be able to turn the Galactic Senate into a military state and simultaneously kill off the entire Jedi Order while also bringing a new Sith apprentice to power as well. Like all this stuff was supposed to happen. It like 3 years feels way too short for something that is supposed to be that influential and like that planned out.
I think the Clone Wars lasted for like 4-ish years, but like if I was like George Lucas, I'd say maybe 5 to 10 years, and that's like minimum. But that's what I like really about the Phantom Menace, right? Is that you just see the slow build up, and also there's some great scenes of Palpatine's like, "Sir, is that legal? I will make it legal."
Yeah. Well, yeah, and going back to that scene too, because like the stuff about like the politics, because that's the thing I think why people say that they don't like the politics in episode one is because there are certain things about it that don't quite make sense, or like that don't quite click, or you have to like really really think about it before it actually starts to make sense. And even then there's some things, like the main thing is just like the blockade stuff at the very beginning, where it's like, okay, so you have the trade, you have the Trade Federation, who is this, you know, party that is completely separate from Naboo, who are like setting up this big blockade around a country that they don't, or a territory that they have, you know, no sway over. It's like, I don't see how that is in any way legal, or like they say that like their blockade is legal, and it's that kind of stuff is, you know, what I feel gets people a lot. A lot of the other kind of stuff can just be explained with, like, you know, corruption, that kind of stuff. The stuff that kind of goes on at the Senate, just, you know, the bunch of debates that like waste time, because that's the whole point of that, is that like nobody's able to actually help Naboo because they're too busy, bogged down by everything else.
Yeah, they're bogged down by red tape and bureaucracy. I mean that's the. I think like various like political philosophers like point this out about the thing of like a bureaucracy, right? Like if it expands too much, it becomes like inefficient.
Yeah, I do find it silly though, just a little bit. I do understand the reason why they do it this way, because again, of the corruption of the chancellor at the time. The fact that like when Amidala or her stand-in, her decoy, goes to the Senate and is like, hey, we the Trade Federation has deployed an entire army of battle droids, and they're like, this is false, you got to send someone to confirm this. I'm like, motherfucker, you have two people who saw that, who do not, like, you have two Jedi who do not answer either to the Trade Federation or to Naboo. You also have like recordings of messages straight from Naboo, people that are there saying that people are dying.
Also, the Queen of Naboo is also the Queen of Naboo is also on your planet.
That too. It's like, what more evidence do you need? And like, obviously, I understand the whole point is that the Chancellor is in the pockets of the Trade Federation.
But it's all fake news. Listen, Alderaan did not blow up. That's rebel propaganda.
It's so silly to me that they can even like make that assertion when they're like, you have no proof. Bring in the Jedi, our proof. The guys who saw it happen. Because I don't know how you could dismiss that as evidence when the Jedi themselves are independent both of the Trade Federation and Naboo, and really, well, I don't know if I would say that they're independent. Well, I mean, they work with the Senate, but like, it's not like they have any reason to lie. Again, I get the whole point is that the Chancellor is in the pockets of the Trade Federation, but really like the blockade.
We'll get into the corruption of the Jedi later as well, but like, yeah. I mean. But also the other thing is that, like, you know, not everyone knows about like economics or tariffs. Like, you know, I've only got like a very basic understanding of economics and politics and all that shit. Like, you know, but your average viewer is not going to have any knowledge about that. So I think that's what, like, you know, like we said before, there is actually good things in these movies. It's just like, I don't think the average person is going to pick up on some of these details.
Exactly. That's the reason why people are bored by, because that's the thing. Politics themselves are not boring. Like ask Magic the Gathering players, especially like Magic the Gathering Commander players. They will tell you politics are not boring. Politics are fun. Politics are very fun. It's when you don't understand those politics is when they're boring, because you have no concept of what is being talked about, and thus you cannot understand like what things mean for the stakes, what is at stake, and that kind of stuff. It just becomes like a bunch of gobbledygook nonsense that you just can't really get invested in, because you cannot wrap your head around it, because you don't have like the proper background to understand it.
No. We should talk about Duel of the Fates. But, by the way, I just want to say, John Williams fucking cooked with this fucking prequel trilogy.
Oh, completely. Oh yeah, like the soundtrack is absolutely fantastic.
We'll go into the more detailed music later, but like anyway, like Duel of the Fates, how fucking cool was Darth Maul?
Oh yeah, the fight was really awesome. I don't even care that like his lightsaber feels the tiniest bit unpractical. It was just a really cool scene. It was a really cool concept. The idea that this duel was, you know, for the fate of pretty much the whole galaxy. Everything that was, I don't even care that I have no idea what all that stuff in the back was. Like they're walking through the friggin' generator room of the Death Star. I have no idea what half the stuff is.
I mean, that's the other thing with Star Wars, right? And I should mention this, right? Like, here's the thing. I know a decent amount of Star Wars lore. Like, I've read some of the books, played a lot of the video games, watched the movies, seen the Clone Wars. Like, I have a decent understanding of Star Wars lore, but I'm not like an aficionado, right? Like, I haven't read all the I haven't read all the comics, I haven't read all the books, or I haven't read everything, but I've read a few things. Like, I know enough.
Like the thing, because in the Death Star one, like Obi-Wan's turning down the shield generator. I get why like there's a bunch of I can wrap my head around that being like this big techie kind of canyon, because it is all this one giant cannon basically, and like at some point you are going to be standing above or within the barrel of that cannon. And I can imagine that there is, going to be like a lot of kind of space that might be needed in some regard, either for like heating of some kind, or like you can, come up. Like, you can imagine a number of reasons for why the architecture would be the way that it would be there. For here, I'm like, I have no idea what any of this is. At the same time, though, the fight is just cool enough that I'm like, I'll give it a pass. I know that there are some people who are like, Plinkett is probably the biggest one who's talked about it, is that it feels a lot more like a dance than an actual fight, and I can kind of understand.
Do you want to know a fun fact about that Star Wars fight? When Obi-Wan is fighting Darth Maul, so they actually had to slow down the footage they actually had to slow down the footage from the movie, because apparently Ewan McGregor, and I forget the guy who was playing Darth Maul. I'll look him up later. But apparently they were moving so fucking fast for the cameras that when in post recording they had to slow it down. They were moving so fast.
I did not know that.
And apparently the same thing happened in Revenge of the Sith with Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. Apparently they were moving so fast, fast, that, when they were recording it, they had to slow down the footage.
That's cool.
Dude,
I guess,
imagine Hayden Christensen as a fucking knight in the olden days. Apparently, so Nick Geller, the stunt coordinator, apparently he said that, Hayden Christensen is apparently, a natural with a sword. Just picks up really quickly.
I can see that. Yeah, especially near the very end when he's fighting Maul by himself. Yeah, I can definitely see. He definitely gives the...
Hayden, not Ewan, but apparently Ewan picked it up pretty quickly.
Oh, sorry.
Too. Apparently, I think, Gillard said this in some interview somewhere, I think with Star Wars Theory or something like that. I'll go bring it up later. I'll link some... I'll link some interesting blogs I found about Star Wars and shit in the description below if some people want to give me some food for thought. But,
Well, granted, Hayden wasn't brought on until Attack of the Clones, though. I mean,
no,
I didn't...
He was brought on until, Attack of the Clones, but apparently I heard that both Ewan and, Hayden are apparently really good with a sword.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
They just pick up really quickly. Just pick it up really quickly. I'm just like...
Yeah.
Hayden was born the wrong time period. He should have been a knight or something like that. He would have fit in well. He's got the physique for it. And
yeah, there are some other things with Phantom Menace, and granted, I don't think that we'll be able to talk about all of it before we have to talk about the other movies.
Yeah, because
I think
more important stuff in the other two movies. I just want to mention.
Yeah.
So Jar Jar, yay or nay?
I don't find him as annoying as everyone else says he is. Granted, that could also just be my bias that Phantom Menace was the first Star Wars movie that I ever watched in general. At the same time, though, I don't exactly think that he was needed. If the reason why they brought him back for the other movies to be able to to have him be the reason, to be the one that gives Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers, basically to be oh yeah, you hate you think you hate Jar Jar? Well, that's cool. We're gonna make him the guy that screws everything up. And I'm
yeah, thanks, Jar Jar. Padme did not want that to happen.
I'm just okay, so you made this fuck up character, this character who is known for being a klutz, and everyone hates him, and instead of trying to give him a more redeeming, or even just remove him entirely since everyone hates him, you're just gonna give people more reason to hate him, and just to be yeah, we hate him too, guys. I'm just
so do you know what happens to Jar Jar and Disney Cat?
I have a decent enough idea, but I've heard stories. I don't know exactly what happens, but he
gets exiled from Naboo after the Empire falls. He gets exiled from Naboo. He picks up a war orphan, and they go having adventures together.
Oh, I did not know that. I heard that he did not have as much of a happy ending as everyone else, and again, it's just kind of the thing. Is I get it if you want to clown on a character because everyone hated them.
I think in Legends, he remained a senator, still fucking chilling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think in Legends, yeah, but in Disney canon, he basically got exiled from Naboo because they all blame him for giving they kind of blame him for helping form the Empire. Which, okay, wasn't entirely his fault, but
Yeah, like if he wasn't given that power in the first place, which I mean, first of all, I'd like Padme, you gave a guy who is known for being a klutz this much power. Like, yes, I know you need like a representative of the Gungan people on Naboo as well, and that would probably be helpful. But like, literally anyone but Jar Jar. You know,
yeah,
people
not
want to
the
blame
right
Jar Jar
Gungan,
for that. And if there
not the
is
right Gungan.
if there is any amount of blame that you can put on Jar Jar for doing that, you can place just as much on Padme for giving him that power in the first place. I'm sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry at all.
Yeah, I mean, because, some people, like, tend to portray Padme as, like, this flawless saint. Like, no, she's flawed just as much as Anakin is, actually, in some ways.
Yeah.
But, like, we'll get into that later when it comes to, like, the relationship. So, like, Attack of the Clones. Shall we talk about the most,
actually...
Like...
Well, actually, first thing, this is just something I want to bring up just kind of, like, briefly, because... like, of the other problems that I figured are, like, too small to really talk about, one that stood out to me in The Phantom Menace is the introduction of, like, droidekas.
Yes.
The fact that you have portable shield generators, and I think to myself, that would have been, I can think of several instances where something like that would have been really useful in the original trilogy. I can even think of some instances where that would have been really useful in the prequel trilogy itself, and yet droidekas are apparently the only known kind of combat unit that use shield generators. There is not like a portable backpack that like clones can wear to like give them a shield of some kind. It is only these droids. And I don't know why they made it that way. Why they would make it these new units that have this incredibly useful utility that are never used by anyone else and have never been used before or since.
Yeah,
I just don't get it.
Yeah, I have some issues with how the Clone Wars is, like, featured, because you'd think that, like, the technology armed race would, like, skyrocket.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
And it...
So...
Yeah, Attack of the Clones, sorry.
Yeah, so, starting with Attack of the Clones, let's go into the most, like, convoluted, like, assassination plot ever.
Oh, boy!
So
let's... want to jump, like, straight...
Yeah, let's go into
Do we want to... So, God, where do I even want to start?
Okay, I just want to mention, I think the first assassination attempt was supposed to fail, because, obviously, Palpatine...
When you say the first assassination attempt, you mean the
ship exploding,
blowing up Padme... Yeah.
I think that was supposed to fail, and here's why. Here's the thing. Okay, I don't necessarily think Palpatine is against, like, Padme dying, but at the same time, if she can keep him alive for his schemes and plans, he'll allow it. But I think the first assassination attempt was supposed to fail, because here's the thing, Palpatine knows how, like, Padme's security system works. He was her advisor. Like, he knows exactly how, like, the Naboo, like, security system works and shit like that. So I think that, that first assassination attempt was to fail. And it's, because, I don't think this assassination attempt would have gone through if Palpatine didn't approve of it or think it could have been useful in some way. However, the second assassination attempt is the most, like, convoluted thing ever.
Well, especially because I can't quite tell if the second one was supposed to fail too, because the entire thing that allows them to even find out the existence of the clone army in the first place is the failure of this assassination attempt. So I'm like, wait a minute, was this one supposed to fail too? Because if this one went off without a hitch, hell, even if it had failed, there's like a scenario where they would have never found out about Kamino and never would have found out about the clones. Because like the whole reason why, and this is the stupidest thing too. Granted, so with the knowledge that like that at least one of these assassination attempts was supposed to fail, do you think Django was in on the idea that the first one was supposed to fail, or do you think that like he and Zam were actually trying to kill Padme?
I think Django didn't know about like the first one to fail. Like I think like Dooku basically said like, oh hey, here, stick a bomb into this. Like it's kind of implied that the first attempt was supposed to fail, right? Like that was kind of implied. At least Palpatine kind of wants it to fail, but afterwards, if Padme lives or dies, it doesn't really matter to him.
But Django wasn't in on that, is what I'm saying.
I don't think he was, because when everyone shows up to Kamino, he's actually surprised.
And Zam certainly wasn't in on that either. But, like, the way that they handle trying to get away after their second assassination attempt is found out is one of the stupidest things. So, all
He
right,
shoots a
first of
dart.
all,
He shoots a. He
it's
shoots a.
all well. No, even before that, that's the icing on the cake. It
Oh
gets
wait,
even
okay. Let's
dumber
get to the
before
actual
we.
second. Okay. Let's go to the second assassination camp. So you see, no, assassins are much better. We hire a guy who hires a guy who puts drones, who put in this drone is supposed to kill people, but then the other guy kills the subcontractor. It's like this.
Well, actually, no. Here's the thing. That like complexity there, that in theory is genius because it means that like with all these different chains of command will make it that much more difficult to find the person who actually like set up this assassination in the first place. The problem is when you send that
Pete, you're roboting.
last guy, the
Pete, you're roboting
droid,
for
to
a
drop
second.
into her room and just hope that the Senate. Oh, am I?
Yeah, repeat again. Okay.
Oh,
Repeat,
sorry.
yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Am
I
I?
can hear you now. Yeah, I can
Can
hear
you?
you now. Okay.
Okay.
Just,
Can
yeah.
you hear me?
Yes,
Am I
I can.
roboting?
You're better
Perfect.
now. Much better
Okay.
now.
So the whole chain of command thing, the fact that like you have Palpatine who tells Count Dooku, who tells Jango, who tells Zam, who tells a droid to drop some centipedes into a hole at the bottom of the sea.
Okay, wait, stop right there. I don't think like Dooku's mostly doing this because it's to appease like nuke gun range shit like that. But like, I think this wouldn't have happened if he didn't have the go ahead from Palpatine, essentially. But I don't think Palpatine is behind the
Yeah,
assassinations. It's more like, oh, we'll see what happens. I'll still corrupt Anakin anyway. So
that's fair. But like the whole point that I'm trying to make is that having all these different like chains of command in theory will make it like that can be a good thing because it makes it that much more difficult to find out who the like real ringleader of this assassination attempt actually is. But it only works if the like everyone above the droid that dropped the centipedes gets away scot-free. And the thing is, they could have. The point in which they fucked up, if we're going to ignore the improbability of like just dropping some centipedes into a room and we're just going to hope that it stinks her and just hope that works, as opposed to just launching a rocket launcher in the general direction of her hotel, just like we did with the plane, since that would probably be a lot more effective.
Or better, you have a shapeshifter. Why not shapeshift as one of her guards, and then when she's not looking, like shank her.
Yeah, I feel like that one would be a little bit more difficult because like she's got Jedi guarding her, and I feel like they would probably know if something was up.
She's got she's got an entire like small private army downstairs, right? Like she's got the Naboo guard,
Yeah.
she's got a small private army.
But here's the thing: despite all of that, they still could have gotten away with it if it weren't for the fact that the droid follows, like it goes back to Zam.
It's just self-destructive.
With Obi-Wan hanging off of it. The whole reason why they're able to find Zam and they're able to find the person who sent that droid in the first place is because the droid, instead of just self-destructing, decides to go back to the person who sent it. If it had just blown up and like relayed a message before doing so, just telling Zam, "Hey, mission abort. I'm peace out. I'm out." And then just blew up, then like they would have gotten away with it and they could have like tried another assassination attempt. That is all that was needed. Instead, because it went back and because Zam decided to shoot the droid instead of like Obi-Wan himself, they ended up being able to have that big chase and they followed her. And then she was about to give away the name for, and then we get to the Camino Saber Dart, which again is kind of silly that he would use a weapon that directly ties him back to. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm
just sorry. Yeah, it said Discord is saying that my connection is weak, so I didn't know if like I got disconnected. But you can hear me? Fine.
Yeah, I can hear you. I just want to mention, like, Boba Fett has... Oh, no, it's Jango Fett. Jango Fett has access to rifles and shit like this. Why don't you just, like, ping her with a blast, a sniper rifle or something like that?
Yeah, especially considering that, like, the Camino Saber Dart thing doesn't... The toxin doesn't work right away, and if her last words, instead of cursing the bounty hunter that killed her, was instead uttering the name of the person she worked for, then they would have found the information that he was trying. Yeah, like literally anything, then like he's fucked. You would kind of want something that's a lot more immediate, like blaster fire or a bomb, like shoot a dart that explodes or something, so that way at least there's no evidence left behind. literally anything besides a dart made by the planet, by the people on the planet where you came from. And again, though, because a part of Palpatine's whole plan is that he needs the clone army to be discovered by the Jedi around the time that they are going to have a vote for an army to be commissioned in the first place. It kind of begs the question, wait, was all of this intentional? Then, like, what? Was it intentional that, like, these people were supposed to fail this assassination attempt so that they could then find their way to Kamino? Because it doesn't feel like Jango was privy to that information. It really felt like he was actually trying to kill Padme this time. So it just raises so many questions about that. We've not even gotten to, like, a lot of the more complex kind of stuff. Just the complete ignorance on the Jedi's part when all this information about the clones' existence and everything else about their commission is suddenly brought to light. But yeah, that's the assassination attempts in a nutshell. Granted,
fun fact. Originally Darth Plagueis, Darth Plagueis Wise, he was actually the one who originally paid for this army with the help of like Sifo-Dyas.
Really interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so Darth Plagueis was the one who originally helped pay for this army. So did Count Dooku. So basically, I think Darth Plagueis helped pay for like initially it, and then like Count Dooku also chipped in to help pay for this army. But like originally,
well, that makes
so this Jedi called Sifo-Dyas, he started having visions of the Clone Wars basically, and how the Republic were going to be in a massive crisis, and so he basically goes to Kamino to commission these clones, but he doesn't have the money, and then Hugo Damask and his buddy Count Dooku help chip in.
Interesting.
Not at once,
so Sifo-Dyas didn't consult the council on this before doing all this?
No.
Okay. Because it was always my understanding that, like, Sifo-Dyas was just used as, like, the, as a scapegoat, just to be, like, just so that way they didn't have to put Tyrannus or Count Dooku on.
No, like basically he saw visions of the Clone Wars and kind of I might be misremembering shit, but like originally he came to Kaminoans to create this army, but he didn't have the money for it. But Count Dooku did.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think like Plagueis initially paid for like the initial stuff of it, and then Count Dooku I think paid for the rest of it, because Darth Plagueis has fuck you money. And Count Dooku also has, like, fuck you money, too, so...
Oh, yeah, no, well, I mean,
So I think, like, basically what happened, right, is that, like, I think maybe Plagueis put the idea of commissioning a clone army into Sifo-Dyas' head, and then, like, they jacked the project, basically. It's like, oh, cool, an army, we'll take that, because I think originally the clones were supposed to be used, like, to save the Republic, and then the Sith are like, oh, what a cool idea, we'll just yoink this. Yoink.
I gotcha. It still raises, I feel, a couple questions, because I would like to know a little bit more about, like, Sifo-Dyas' thought process in doing that, because, like, a big thing about the revelation of the clone army...
This is all in the comics and books, and I should mention that, like, outside of, like, all the shit being revealed to them, I also think that maybe the Jedi would think that, like, aren't we just having, like, a child soldier slave army? Isn't that a little bit questionable? Because as a child, but like, oh yeah, clone soldiers, cool. But as an adult, I'm like, wait, aren't these like basically just child slave soldiers?
Genetically engineered child slave soldiers. But like, the other thing too is,
like, is this kind of like ethically, the ethics of this bit questionable?
It really just kind of like goes into what exactly the clones are, or like ethically what the clones are, I guess, in a sense. Because it's like, if you can genetically engineer a creature that consents to being used as a soldier, like, it is so ingrained in their nature that they are okay with that. And that is the case 100% of the time that you, like, make these kinds of creatures. And it kind of, like, begs the question, is that, like, if they still choose to do that, if that is of their own free will, they are obedient, like she said, then is that like ethical? But like you also made them that way. You didn't give them the ability to like really think about that. But then again, it's just it goes into like a big kind of question about
Yeah,
it.
it
I don't
goes
think
into
it's
a
as
massive
bad as it could.
yeah,
But there is definitely like some ethics
yeah.
about it that I feel like would be interesting if they were explored later, since like the clones have since been decommissioned, and like in a way they're kind of now their own species. Like there's a bunch of them just kind of like around the galaxy now, and I'd almost be curious. I would almost like to see a story that's just about a clone trooper trying to make his way in the galaxy after the war had ended, after the Empire had been overthrown, all that kind of jazz.
Actually, I think there is stuff like that. So, this is like some of the comics and novels, but like, so fun fact. So, one of the medics you see in the Clone Wars, I think his name is Kit or something like that. He gets captured by separatists and like basically cryogenically frozen. He wakes up like I think like 30 years later, and he's just like, because I think he's part of Anakin Skywalker's Legion, like the 501st. He's like, what the fuck? And he like when he wakes up, he's like, what the fuck?
Oh, I think I've heard of this guy. Didn't he eventually like go on to actually be a part of Darth Vader's personal like battalion or something like that?
No, that's a different clone. There's a different one.
Gotcha.
This one's like after Darth. This is after the Empire fell. Okay. So like 20, 30 years after the fact, like after the Clone Wars, and he's like,
oh, I see.
Yeah, because basically, so we should mention the clones can only live for like 40 years. Because I know that like Captain Rex was actually at the Battle of Endor, but like he's pushing like 70 at that point. Well, 70 for a clone, so he's not gonna be around for much longer after that. But like
yeah, I got you.
But yeah, like I think his name was Kit or like something with something little K. I'll bring it up. I'll find it up later. But it's not super relevant. But like he wakes up, he's just like, he wakes up, it's like, oh, okay, gotta go find General Skywalker and all that shit, and just finds out that 30 years have passed and everything is fucked. And eventually, I think he goes on to be a bounty hunter or something like that, or like a mercenary soldier or something like that. But like, yeah, no. These are living creatures, and even though they're kind of bred and born to fight, they weren't really given much a choice. It's just like, isn't this like a fucking like slave army?
Basically, no, that basically is what they are. And yeah, I wouldn't mind like seeing more stuff that kind of talks about it. It's a bit of a shame that like a lot of that,
how bad is it that you need like the Republic needs to be run by like slave armies? Because this isn't a thing that's like shown in the Clone Wars TV show too much, but like here's the thing. It wasn't just like clones fighting and droids. It was also like various militia units too from various planets.
Oh, yeah.
Like this is a massive like. The droids and clones were more like the vanguard forces, but you had like various like militias and civil wars all over the goddamn fucking place. Like just a chaotic clusterfuck of a war. We should mention Bella Geonosis. What an awesome like set piece.
Oh yeah, I feel like there are some things about it. The Battle of Geonosis that feel, because like to me I feel in like especially a lot of those kinds of areas where like you just have a bunch of clones and droids just kind of standing out in the open, like shooting at each other, as opposed to like setting up perimeters, creating like shields or digging trenches, so that way like they can actually effectively shoot the enemies while they are also. I don't
think they had the time. Also, keep in mind that like the Republic hasn't had like a full scale war in like 1,000 years. Like people are a bit rusty.
That. I feel like I don't know. I don't know if like rusting is
an excuse that you could make that excuse. I'm not making it, but like
I feel like if you are so rusty that like you don't know to like take cover and to create cover for like your army while you're attacking the other one, or better yet, just like make it a full-on vehicular kind of combat. Mostly keep it to like aircrafts and stuff like ways that you can. I feel make it a lot more reliable that you're to keep like your army alive and that kind of stuff. I feel like that would make a lot more sense to me. I don't know if I feel like rusty warfare explains like just being kind of out in the open shooting at each other and not
keep in
really
mind that like there's also other battles fightings on the planet as well.
This would also be a good place for portable shield generators.
Yes.
This would be a great place for portable shield generators like those droidicas, so that way you don't have to dig trenches or like set up perimeters and stuff.
Yeah, but I think the other point is that like the Jedi going in are really bad fucking military commanders. I mean, that's why like Anakin Skywalker has such a like a good reputation, is because actually like he's actually like really good at war. But we'll go into that later. And then in the backdrop of this like massive conspiracy that's really fucking obvious, and if you watch like the Clone Wars TV show, they even get more hints. They just do everything wrong and like.
Oh yeah, well no, it's crazy too, because like everything, there are giant red flags everywhere that like not only are like not only are people like Count Dooku and like higher ups in the Separatists kind of like playing both sides and just orchestrating the entire war for whatever malicious purpose, but like later when it's revealed that Count Dooku is a Sith, Lord Tyrannus, the guy who commissioned
He's
the
funding it.
army, or like who is funding the army, and more importantly, who was the one who hired the copy for, or the base original for all the clones. It kind of like gives so many red flags that this is that the Sith are the ones that are like controlling all of this, and it's actually revealed like just straight out by Dooku that, hey, did you know that like that Dark Lord of the that there is a Dark Lord of the Sith that is in charge of everything in the Senate and is slowly orchestrating this giant war and everything. And granted, like the Jedi Council are like, he's just trying to like sow division. He's just, just a bunch of lies trying to make us turn against each other. But like in a way, like everything to back up what Dooku was saying is right there, because he, like Obi-Wan, met a bounty hunter that is in league with Count Dooku, telling him this kind of stuff, who they learned later is Darth Tyrannus, the guy who hired that bounty hunter to be the base for all the clones that were ordered, and the guy who conveniently made the order for all these clones both conveniently never met the original for those clones, but also died before he could give any kind of answers about the existence of this clone army in the first place. And it's like, there's so much stuff that would show very obviously that the clones are being or in some way being controlled in like just as much by people who are also on the side of the Separatists, and all of it ties back to the Sith. But like by the end, the Jedi are just kind of like, nah, couldn't be anything. There's probably a bunch of other stuff too that I'm missing as well.
Where it's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, listen, it's right there. You almost like, it's like We'll talk about this later when we get into Revenge of the Sith, right? But by the ending part of the Clone Wars, they start suspecting that maybe the Sidious person is real. And here's the thing: we'll get more into detail on this in like Revenge of the when we talk about Revenge of the Sith. But like, here's the thing: they actually almost caught on to Sidious, so that's why he got kidnapped in Revenge of the Sith, because they almost found him out.
Yeah.
But we'll go into that later.
Exactly.
The other thing that Attack of the Clones is very famous for is probably one of the most infamous romances ever on the set of the movie screen.
Infamous is definitely the right word for it.
I just want to mention that, and we'll talk about this, go into more detail about like their relationship later when we go into like the meta topics. I just want to say, the book makes this relationship way more like understandable and tolerable. So let's just go through all like the weird scenes. Shall we? Like
yeah,
it comes off as really fucking creepy in this movie.
Oh, very. Yeah. Well, considering you have, especially like when they state at the very beginning that Anakin and Padme haven't seen each other since the 10 years prior at like the end. It's been 10 years since the Phantom Menace. They have not seen or talked to each other like ever since. And granted, that's not like that does not mean that they can't fall in love at that point. But when you have a lot of the other kind of, I feel like you got to do like a lot of extra legwork to make a lot of the other kind of stuff believable. But I'm also not like a big romantic myself, so I'm not going to pretend to know like what would be the best for the kind of romance that they have. But there are just some other things as well that do feel very creepy. Like, I guess just the first most obvious thing is the when Anakin confesses that he killed the Sand People, and not just the men, but the women and the children too. I slaughtered them like animals. It's like, Padme, are you not seeing even just a couple red flags here? Even just a couple of them, like she is not perturbed.
Okay, do you want me to bring up the book right now? Because it actually goes into detail what she's feeling. Let me go find it quickly.
Let's go.
Found it. Okay, let me scroll up. Okay. Okay. Padme sat back a bit, too stunned to respond. She knew that Anakin needed her to say something or do something, but she was paralyzed. He wasn't even looking at her. He was just staring off in the distance. But then he lowered his head and began to sob, his lean, strong shoulders shaking. Padme pulled him in and hugged him close, never wanting to let go. She still didn't know what to say. Why do you hate them? Anakin asked her. Okay, why do you hate them? Anakin asks her, "Do you hate? Oh wait, why do you hate them?" Anakin asks her, "Do you hate them, or do you hate what they did to the mother?" "I hate them," he insisted. "And they earned your anger, Anakin?" He looked up at her, her eyes wet with tears, but it was more than that. He started to say, and then he shook his head and brushed his head against the softness of her breast. A moment later, he looked up and what was it? Oh yeah, here's the thing. "To be angry is to be human," Padme assured him. "To control your anger is to be Jedi," Anakin was quick to reply. And he pulled away from her and stood up, turning to face the open door and the desert beyond. Padme was right there beside him, draping her arms about him. "Shh," she said softly. She kissed him gently on the cheek. "You're human. No, I'm a Jedi. I know I'm better than this." He looked at her directly, shaking his head. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "You're like everyone else," Padme said. She tried to draw closer, but Anakin held himself back from her. I just want to mention, so it's not, and I'll mention this when we get to, like, ruins and stuff. Like, here's the thing, Padme is not unaware of, like, Anakin's red flags. Like, she is not unaware of it. The thing is that, like, she's kind of horrified, but I think she just kind of views this as, like, okay, it was a one-time thing. This is a
I think
extreme, this is, like, a really extreme moment. And also, like, and we'll go into this discussion, we'll talk more about the relationship later, right? But, like, you know, she doesn't ignore the red flags. I think because I think the thing with Padme, right, is, and I don't think it's like, I can fix some energy, right? It's more like she sees someone who's, okay, he's done this horrible thing, I need to do something, because she's like, okay, this could get worse if I don't do something about it. And, like, you could argue in many ways that Padme actually stopped him from going to the dark side in some ways. Like, you could say that her influence in his life was probably more for a positive, but, like, you know, she doesn't ignore his red flags. She's very aware of them, but also she's very aware that, you know, he can also be a hero too. You know,
gotcha.
You know, this is like, because up to this point, this has been an off moment, right? This is like an off moment for him, and you know, and keep in mind, like, before Revenge of the Sith happens, he doesn't really do anything like this ever again. You know, so I think for Padme, this is like a one-off.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay.
And, like, at the very least, like, her reaction feels a little bit more reasonable than that, because you also mentioned that, like, she had tears streaming down, and, like, she's actually kind of emoting and reacting to, like, this kind of information in a very, like, just...
No, Anakin has tears down her face. I misread it, but like, I misread the passage because it's like, it's worded a bit clunky, right?
Gotcha.
But, like, you know, for her, this is like a one-off, right? This is an extreme one-off. And the other thing is, they talk about like, some of the extra novels, that they go more into detail about the relationship. They never actually had a time to sit down and talk about that more, because, you know, we'll go into this later, right? But it's like, you know, they never really had the time to sit back and talk about that. But, like, as far as Padme was concerned, this is a one-off. Like, this was an extreme one-off situation, and, you know, probably wasn't going to happen again.
Yeah.
And
can we talk about, like, how... I kind of want to talk about Count Dooku and just kind of, like, something else that was... Because, like, something else about, like, the part of the reason why I feel like I'm like, part of the reason I feel like this sort of goes hand in hand with, like, the problem of how politics were portrayed in Episode 1 is just, like, there's not really a lot that is given away about who Dooku is until, like, much later on when you actually kind of see him. Like, really, the most that you kind of, like, hear is early on when you have Padme, who is like, oh, I think Count Dooku is the one who orchestrated this assassination. Then you have the Jedi who are like, dude's a former Jedi. Why do you think that he would try to, you know, do this? And I believe, too, is that Dooku is portrayed as being someone who... I don't think Dooku was, like, openly for the war, but I also don't know much about, like, Dooku. They describe him as a political idealist, but, like, that's kind of the most that they say about it. I don't really know if they're... I don't know much about, like, how Dooku is seen by these people as, like, a political figure, because we really don't know much about him until well over, like, 2/3 of the way through the movie, maybe even, like, halfway through,
and all this information,
when he's finally
and all of, like, the information and, like, you know, how, like, he became a Sith Lord and all that shit. Most of this is, like, an extra material content.
Yeah, we're missing a lot of information about it too, because I kind of want to know why she thinks a former Jedi, who is still respected by the rest of the Jedi Council, is, like, in the first suspect by Padme to be the one who orchestrated her assassination. I want to know why she thinks that. I feel like that's a little bit important there, especially, like, when it's supposed to be build up to the reveal that, oh yeah, he actually is in charge of all this. And then they just kind of, like, drop him as, like, any kind of figure at all until he actually appears on screen. And I'm like, oh, was that supposed to be important? Like, you would be forgiven for not even knowing who exactly she was talking about or thinking that that line was insignificant, because Count Dooku, I don't think, ever gets brought up again until he's seen on Geonosis. And even then, the first time that you do see him, he's just like a talking voice off screen that Obi-Wan is listening to. And I don't even think even he realizes that it's Dooku who's talking. It's just very strict, because, like, again, big thing about like how the Jedi get duped is also kind of ties in part to how Dooku is portrayed, or like how he's viewed, I suppose, by the Jedi Council, and like the general betrayal there. That's all important information as part of like the reveal of this big conspiracy, or the quote unquote reveal. I know that it's not supposed to be revealed yet, because the Jedi don't seem to act like there's any major conspiracy yet, but it feels like a lot of information that could have been delivered earlier in the movie is not really brought up about who this guy is.
Yeah, and
sorry, I didn't mean to go off.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And that's kind of like my issue with like Star Wars as a whole, was that like, as cool as like the EU content isn't concerned, right? Like, some of this would have been really useful in the fucking movies, like, like set up who Count Dooku is. Because, like, unless you've read, like, the EU material and shit like that, you would have no idea who the fuck Count Dooku is, or why he has the resources he has, or why he's doing what he's doing. Because, if if you watch, like, Tales of the Jedi, or read some of the, like, the books, like, Dooku, Jedi Lost, or something like that, right? A lot of his issues is with, like, with the Republic and the Jedi Order and stuff like that, how he feels it's fallen from grace, it's becoming corrupted, and he's not wrong. Like, Dooku, like, his criticisms of, like, the Jedi Order and Republic are not wrong, but, then he gets corrupted by Palpatine, and, like, he basically becomes, like, the source of his own corruption and his own undoing.
Yeah, basically. And, yeah,
and then he gets his head chopped off in Revenge of the Sith, and then he's dead, so...
Basically, yeah, no, it's... I feel like we should have known a little bit more. It's fucking Christopher Lee, man. It's Christopher Lee. It's goddamn, Dracula, it's fucking Saruman the White. God damn, you're really like not gonna go into a character played by Christopher Lee, especially one who is like this important to the conspiracy of your movie. Yeah, I'm disappointed by how little we really got to know him. And granted, you could argue that there wasn't enough time, and yeah, that's partially because of how much stuff that there is in all three of the movies that is kind of important to understanding things like the political scape of things.
Yeah, I think this movie's got done better for like a longer runtime, because like some of the stuff they add in the books and like the extended scenes actually make it like way better, because the conversation is a lot more natural. But going back to like, well, actually, no, we'll talk about that when we get to the meta. Do you want to move on with Revenge of the Sith? And then we'll start going to topics, because it's almost been an hour, and I want to,
Yeah. Let's talk about Revenge of the Sith. Let's get right to the best one. All right. What do you want to talk about first?
So the thing I want to talk about Revenge of the Sith, what I really like about it is just kind of like, what is it? It's like, I should mention this. So this is revealed in like a prequel, like a novel, that apparently because the Clone Wars have been going for like 3 to 4 years at this point. They almost caught at this point. They kind of catch on that Sidious is an actual thing, but most of this detail is revealed in like the novelization of Revenge of the Sith. But
so this is all stuff. This prelude to the attack above Coruscant.
Yes,
this is all stuff that's in the book that you're talking about.
Yes.
So is the stuff that happens?
This is stuff that
is this in line with?
This is stuff that happens in the book and in the prequel novel, between like the prequel novel for the Revenge of the Sith novelization, where they basically talk about how they sort of catch on the Sidious. They almost caught him. So if you want to know why, how General Grievous got the Coruscant and stuff like that, is because Palpatine's like, oh shit, they're about to call on to me. I need a distraction. So he gets like kidnapped by Grievous, and at this point he's like, okay, this war can't continue on. I need to corrupt Anakin now, essentially.
Gotcha. So I'm curious, because it's been such a long time.
They go into more discussions in the novelization about like Darth Sidious. If you want me to like bring it up
right
now.
No. What I wanted to ask about was all the stuff leading up to like him being nearly found out. So I'm curious how much of that, or if any of it, is that in line with like the 2003 Tarkovsky animation?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So this is all okay. I didn't know because I didn't remember any of that in the Tarkovsky animation. Which, granted, I also haven't like watched
that would have
that
been
in a
like
long time.
that would have been like off screen, but that was probably going on
Gotcha.
in parallel of that. So just to give you a hint, they managed to track down like his lair on Coruscant, like you know where Count Dooku meets Sidious and Attack of the Clones. Was like our plan is going well. They
Yeah.
managed to track him to that, and they've managed. They suspect. So here's the thing. They don't know that Palpatine is Sidious, but they suspect that someone in Palpatine's inner circle is Darth Sidious. They don't know that.
Well, they goddamn better.
They
I feel
don't.
like that's the
Okay.
smartest decision that they ever made.
Okay. The conclusion they came to is they don't think that Chancellor Palpatine is Darth Sidious, but they think that someone in Palpatine's inner circle is Darth Sidious. That's what they suspect. That is what they suspect. Which they were so close to getting it, and that's why the invasion of Coruscant happened, because essentially Palpatine's like, oh fuck, they're about to call onto me. Right. Hey General Grievous, here's some like secret lanes. Invade, you kidnap me, and I need to crop Anakin now.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's the context. Because there's some other stuff that goes on, right? But they basically, discover that, hey, the Darth Sidious guy may not actually be fucking bullshit, and they manage to trace him to the Senate. And they think that they believe that one of Palpatine's inner circle is Darth Sidious, but they don't think that Darth Sidious and Palpatine are the same person until some stuff happens. Another detail I should go into. So when Anakin starts having his dreams, after having his dreams, he's actually not sleeping much or eating much because he's haunted by fucking nightmares. This is what's explained in the book.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to my understanding too is that like a lot of those nightmares are brought about because of Sidious, which I mean like makes sense because
it's kind of implied that so Anakin can see the future, right? Like that's an ability he's always had. That's like a rare force power he has. Like he has precognition. However,
oh yeah, no, it was hinted at too in Phantom Menace when he well, granted he didn't end up like freeing the slaves, but like I believe that like there was he had foreseen like Jedi coming to the to Tatooine.
We'll actually hold that for we'll go into that when it comes to the meta discussions about like
I got you.
Anakin Padme's thing. We'll go into that when we get into the meta discussions, right? So the other thing about Revenge of the Sith also reveals that Obi-Wan does know about, he doesn't know the full details about their relationship, but he suspects that there's something going on, and he actually he talks to Padme about it. So do you want me to bring that part up in the...
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
I think...
not here.
But it is kind of, is it not implied that and that kind of stuff are being influenced, if not like brought about in some way by Sidious's influence? Because I mean, I could find that believable if like the whole, because I believe even in the movie of The Phantom Menace, it is brief in like a throwaway line. It is implied that they believe when they're talking about a virgins in the Force, and that they think that like Anakin might be one of them. They suspect that like a Sith might be responsible because like they say that there was no father.
Do you want me to go into because this is why we should have read the Plague. This is why I wanted you to go into the Plagueis novel. So
yeah, go ahead.
So, before Anakin was born, Darth Sidious and Darth Plagueis went to Tatooine, and they basically go to fucking town. They're experimenting with life and death, because they'll try to release the dark side. And basically, Anakin was the response to that. So, so Palpatine and Darth Plagueis did not create Anakin, but their actions was, like, Anakin's birth was the response to Sidious and, like, to Darth Sidious and Plagueis. Tampering with life. He was the response to it.
You could influence the midichlorians to create life.
Yeah, we should mention, so the Force has, like, two aspects. Like, you have, like, the cosmic Force, which is, like, the energy field of it, right? And then you have, like, the living Force, which is, like, the divine aspect of the Force, which is what? Like, Anakin is, like, a conception of the living Force, basically. Oh, it's either. I forget which aspect of the Force he's, like, half of. I think it's the living Force, which is, like, but we'll go into this later into the meta topics.
Yeah, I got you.
Do you want me to read this part out?
Yeah, go ahead. Do it.
Senator, Padme, please. He gazed into her eyes with nothing on her face, but blah, 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 blah. Okay, what do you mean? Neither of you are really good at hiding your feelings either. Obi-Wan, Anakin has loved you since the day you met in that horrible junk shop in Tatooine. He's never even tried to hide it. Although we don't speak of it, we pretend that I don't know, and I was happy to because it made him happy. You made him happy, when nothing else ever truly... And you, Padme, as skilled as you are on the Senate floor, cannot hide the light that comes into your eyes when anyone so much as mentions his name. She lurched to her feet. I can't. Obi-Wan, don't make me talk about this. I don't mean to hurt you, Padme. Nor do I make you feel uncomfortable. I'm not here to interrogate you. I have no interest in the details.
Huh.
So, in the scene,
and all that,
like, Anakin's like, Obi-Wan's been here, what have we been talking about? This is what they were talking about. This is before he leaves to Utapau. Like...
I see.
Like, so
okay.
He doesn't know the full details, but he suspects that something's going on. And then when, Anakin goes postal and, he discovers that Padme's pregnant, he's like, Anakin's the father, right? Like, it just confirms everything that he suspected.
Gotcha. Okay.
But going into the Revenge of the Sith, so I just wanted to add those extra details in. So that's talked about in the book. So Anakin is not acting on. He's not getting much sleep. He's not eating right. I should mention that the dark side. And what I like about the book goes into more details, we'll go into more details about the book. But actually,
those dreams are influenced by Sidious, aren't they? To like some degree.
It is heavily implied that those dreams are, because I think it's partially like Anakin's sense in the future, right? But what I think it is that like it's partially Anakin sense in the future, but I think Palpatine is distorting those visions.
Yeah, and it would have to be too, because like how convenient would it be that like Anakin just so happens to be having these dreams at the exact moment when it would be most opportune for Sidious to be able to like manipulate him. Yeah, exactly. Like that would be an insane coincidence if that wasn't his. Yeah. Oh, you're having these dreams. Hey, have you ever heard of the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
He could create.
Yeah.
Actually,
he's like before Anakin even gets a chance to respond, he's just like, I thought not. He's trying to like rush things along because he's like, this most very convenient all this happened this way.
Yeah, I want to read this description of Anakin Skywalker from the Revenge of the Sith I think this will explain a lot. This is Anakin Skywalker, the most powerful Jedi of his generation, perhaps of any generation. The fastest, the strongest, an unbeatable pilot, an unstoppable warrior. On the ground, in the air, or sea or space, there is no one who even comes close. He has not just power, not just skill, but dash. That rare, inevitable combination of boldness and grace. He is the best there ever. He is the best there ever is, in what he does. The best it's ever been, and he knows it. HoloNet features call him the hero with no fear, and why not? Why not? What should he be afraid of? Except fear lives inside him anyway, chewing away as the firewalls around his heart. Anakin sometimes thinks of the dread that eats away of his heart as a dragon, but Anakin's fear is a different kind of dragon, a cold kind, a dead kind, nearly not dead enough.
Crazy.
Yeah, so they also describe Anakin by Revenge of the Sith. He's almost like half Sith already. Like he's halfway there, because I should mention, right? Like Palpatine does not need Anakin to complete his plan. Like this is a bonus quest for him.
Absolutely, because like he like having Anakin helps, but like so long as he's able, like the clone conspiracy goes off without a hitch, it's never discovered before it does. Before he executes Order 66, he can still do everything that he originally intended to do. Anakin is just the added bonus on top.
All right, let me just okay. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna open up some scenes, but I just want to say about what I like about Revenge of the Sith is like originally it just starts out like a typical Star Wars adventure. They're having banter, they're having fun.
Actually, I take that back. I mean, I don't think that he would have known this. Actually, I now that I think about it, Anakin might have been. Well, no, I guess if Anakin, I guess it kind of depends on what we mean by, because he definitely needed Anakin in order for him to overcome Mace Windu, since he was gonna die there if it wasn't for Anakin.
There is some debate about that. There is some like contested debate about that, but like I think that like there is some debate on whether like Sidious was like faking it or like Mace Windu was going to beat him. But like I think that like if anyone outside of Anakin had a shot of defeating the Emperor, I think Mace Windu was probably like had a shot.
Oh, absolutely. No, I don't know if I entirely agree with. I think that Mace absolutely killed him if Anakin hadn't come in.
Oh no, like listen, if Anakin had not stepped in, like Mace would have fucking killed him, I think. But
absolutely.
I do partially think that Palpatine was holding back just a little bit, because I think he was holding back because he sensed Anakin was coming. Right, so we'll go into some of the corruption of Anakin, because the book makes this way more better, and I've got the book excerpts right up.
And in fairness, like the corruption like while there are some done better, the corruption, his corruption in the Revenge of the Sith, compared to like a lot of the other stuff that we've seen, prequels, really isn't that bad. Like especially even people who hate the prequels acknowledge that the Darth Sidious, or sorry, the Darth Plagueis monologue or conversation, I guess not much of a monologue, was really fucking good.
It's even better in the fucking books. But like anyway, so what I like about Revenge of the Sith, right, is that like it starts off relatively normal. You know, they're having banter. You know, this is where the fun begins. You know, it's like a typical
Yeah.
Obi-Wan and Anakin adventure. You know, like their relationship is kind of patched up now. They're having banter. I mean, even the books, right? Like when they're going to Starfires, Anakin's like, all right, a lunch at Dex is I kill 2-1. RT2 will keep score, right? Like they're having fun. You know, this is where the fun begins, right? And then after Dooku gets his head cut off. Oh, should I? No, we won't mention, but like the Dooku head scene because but basically this is where the fall begins. This is where this is where the real corruption begins because before
this is where the fall begins.
Yeah.
Wait, what'd you say? The fun. I meant fun.
Sidious is like this. Like Palpatine's like, I can't do the Ian McDoon voice, but it's like, this is where
Isn't there like a moment when like they're fighting and like Anakin is getting close to like Dooku is, and like Palpatine has like a yes kind of moment. Like
he's getting excited. He's like, yes, do it, Anakin, do it.
Yeah. I fucking love Palpatine.
I just want to love Ian McDoon. I love his acting as Palpatine, like unlimited power. I'm like, oh,
he's such a fucking goofball, and I love it.
Okay,
I mean, like
have you seen Star Wars Shakespeare?
I have not.
Okay, after this video is done, I'll link you the video. We'll watch it. But anyway, so what I love about it starts off relatively normal, right, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. Like in the books, right, you feel this claustrophobic fear going around Anakin as the dragon within him tries to consume him, like the dragon.
Do not listen to the blue dragon. You need to get out of here.
I do have an issue. Okay, there's one issue of the movie I do have. It's just like I don't think the movie does Padme's character many favors, right? Like I understand why she does. Like I think the book does a bit more of a better job. But
well, considering how influential she is to Anakin's fall here, it is kind of weird.
Okay,
that
the thing I want to mention is like I don't know why she didn't think like the second he came back, and keep in mind he's been like away for like 5 months. And the Outer Rim siege, which by the way was pretty brutal apparently according to the lore, and since she's pregnant, like I don't think why she didn't decide, hey, let's just pack off and fuck off in Naboo right now. Like fuck Jedi politics. Like she decides, fuck it, Republic's dead. Like fuck it, we're going off in Naboo right now because they kind of imply this in the movie, and they mention in the book, right? Like actually before we continue, okay, so why do you think Anakin has that little bit of that crash out in the Jedi Council member where they refuse to give him?
Well, at least as far as like the movie portrayed it, like my understanding was like it was pretty obvious because they need him to be a master in order for him to be able to relay information about since he is
why did
the representative.
Be a master basically? They let him sit on the council, but they didn't give the master.
Well, no, they don't grant him the rank of master. But he is on the council because he has to be on the council in order for him to be able to be the representative.
So what do you think he's mad that he wasn't made a master? So what do you think he's mad?
Main reason is just because, well, like he says himself is that like it is insulting that he is basically there and he is among them and he's treated as being one of them, but like he is not one of them. He feels patronized.
Okay. What if I told you that's only partially the reason?
Fill me in.
Well, so the main reason for why he wanted mastery, right, is because he wanted access to the archives to find some way to save Padme from. The only reason he stayed.
Oh. I think I heard about this. Yeah, he wanted access to like stuff that only the masters could get, or learn about like
here's the thing, right? If he was not having visions of Padme dying, he would have left the Jedi Order. And he even mentions this in the book, right? Like, I'll be leaving the Jedi Order soon. Like, if it wasn't for those visions, him and Padme would have been packing up and leaving from the Star Life together. And we'll go into more details about the relationship later, but that's not in the movies. The part where, his motivation, he does want power. However, the underlying motivation is that he's doing it for her. Like, he has to save his wife. He has to listen, Pete, your angel's going to die and you need to save her at any cost.
Yeah.
You want me to go into some of the corruption scenes in the novel? Because I have the book up right now.
Yeah, go ahead, do it.
Okay, so the scene where he reveals himself as Darth Sidious to Anakin? That scene actually goes a little bit longer, but the warm-up to it. So do you want me to read out some of it?
Sure, go ahead.
It's quite simple. In the end, tell me what you want. Anakin squinted up at him. I don't understand. Of course you don't. The last the sun set, hollowed his ice-white hair and threw his face into shadow. You've been trained to never think about that. The Jedi never ask you what you want. They simply tell you what you're supposed to want. They never give you a choice. That's why they all take their students, their victims, at an age so young that choice is meaningless. By the time a Padawan's old enough to choose, he has been a blah 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 blah. I sort of understand. But you're different. You had a real life outside the Jedi Temple. You can break through the fog of lies that Jedi's have pumped into your brain. I ask you again, what do you want? I don't understand. I'm offering you anything, Palpatine said. Ask and it is yours. A glass of water is yours. A bag of Corsair gems, yours. Look out the window behind me, Anakin. Pick something and it's yours. Is this is this some sort of joke? Anakin asked. The time for jokes is past, Anakin. I have never been more serious. With the show that gleamed Palpatine's face, Anakin could only see the twin gleams of the Chancellor's eyes. Pick something, anything, alright, shrugging, frowning, not understanding. Anakin looked at the window, looking at the most ridiculously expensive thing he could spot. How about one of those new custom speeders? Done. Are you serious? You know how much one of those costs. You could practically outfit a battle cruiser. Would you prefer a battle cruiser?
Jesus.
How about several apartments? Anakin's like, how about several apartments? A private apartment? Anakin shook his head. How about the whole building, Palpatine? It's privately owned, Anakin responds. Not anymore. You just can't. Yes, I can. It's yours. Is there anything else you want? Name it. All
That's
right,
very
Corellia.
interesting.
What Corellia? The planet or the whole system?
That's so interesting, because, like, it...
How? Let me keep going. I'm skipping some of it, but, like, how? Anakin couldn't get his breath in. How could he be right? Right now, we're only discussing what. How is a different issue. We'll come to that presently. Anakin sank into his chair while he let everything sink deeper into his brain. If only his head would stop spinning. Why did Palpatine have to start this now? This would be okay. This would be comprehended if the nightmares of Padme didn't keep screaming in his head. In exchange, he asked finally, "What do I have to do? You have to do what you want," says Palpatine. What I want? Yes, Anakin. Yes, exactly that. Only that. Do the one thing the Jedi fear most. Make up your own mind. Follow your own conscience. Do what you think is right. I'm gonna skip the rest of it, but like you see, it's stuff like this, and we'll get. Do you want me to get to the scene in the office?
Yeah, go ahead. Was the relationship between Anakin and Senator Palpatine, because, like, in the first movie, all we really get is like Palpatine at the very end going like, "We will watch your career with great interest," and then I actually don't remember if they've even said much in the second movie. And then the third movie,
it's like
they talked. Yeah, they talked a little bit, but like a lot of it, not enough time before actually Anakin and Obi-Wan went off on their separate adventures. Anakin with Padme and Obi-Wan with the Camino stuff. And then, like, you have the third movie where it's like, oh, they're like such great friends, such close friends that now grooming. Well, I mean, they're such close friends now that, like, the Jedi actually considering using Anakin to spy on him for them. And I'm like, I feel like we took a big leap in between episodes 2 and 3 with, like, the relationship with these two characters.
Yeah,
and like the fact that
okay, I should mention that. Keep in mind, Palpatine's been grooming Anakin since like age 9 or 10.
Oh, absolutely. I just hate that we didn't see any of it.
Yeah, that's.
I would
issue,
love
right?
to.
This is all in the fucking book. So if you're in the scenes of like, with the context of like who Palpatine is, it's like, oh, you think this is like Anakin and his kindly uncle? Like, no, this is like Anakin and his fucking groomer. He's being groomed. Like
absolutely.
Like, Palpatine is a professional Discord mod with Large. He's got like literally like fucking Anakin and Padme are his Discord kittens. I mean, ironically.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I mean, even Darth Maul says it, like he's been well groomed for his role.
But yeah, no, it is. I'll have to read some of the novelizations at some point because
I'll pass them to you. I'll pass them to you. But like, okay, so I'm up to the scene where he cuts off like Mace Windu's arm. Sidious said, join me, pledge yourself to this, become my apprentice. A wave of tingling started at the base of Anakin's skull, spread over his whole body in a slow motion. I can't. Of course you can. Anakin shook his head. I came here to save your life, sir, not to betray my friends. Sidious snorted. What friends? Anakin to find an answer. The Jedi will ever stop until I'm dead. Anakin stared at his hands. The left one was shaking. It hid behind him. Okay, it's me or them, Anakin, or perhaps I should put it more plainly. It's them or Padme.
That's crazy. And you said this is after
he
Windu
cuts off
died.
Mace Windu's arm. So here's the thing. He does not cut off Mace Windu's arm to join Sidious to become the Sith Lord. He did it to save Palpatine's life. Because, like, like, he is so consumed by fear at this point. He is so consumed by fear.
Well, yeah, no, that's the... Honestly, I kind of... It's another one of those kinds of things that I wish was... Because Anakin's fall, after that point, I kind of wish was, like, portrayed a lot more like a good person who has been forced into a bad situation rather than... And, like, slowly becomes more evil, like, progressively over time, rather than, like, someone who... Because that... that right there, that makes sense to me why, because like once he kills Mace Windu in this very like spur of the moment kind of situation where even he realizes, what have I done by the end, because he essentially killed Mace Windu in order for him to protect the one man who actually knows how to like save the life of the person that he loves more than anyone else.
Yeah, like the conversation, and like now, these corruption conversations go on a lot longer, and Palpatine basically says to him, like, listen, it's either Padme or them. Make your choice.
Yeah, no, that is exactly it. Like even in the movie, it is because when like Mace Windu is like he's too dangerous to be left. Because what Anakin wanted was ideally because he understands that like the Sith are bad news.
Because here's the thing, like here's the thing, Anakin knows that probably Palpatine is responsible for these assassination attempts. Like he knows that, but the thing is that
but he cares too much about he cares too much about Padme to like give a shit about that, and so when he's being forced to choose between allowing the one person who might know how to save Padme's life from dying and protecting the standing by the good of the Jedi, he chooses Padme every single time. And that makes sense to me because it is a good man who is forced into a bad situation, and then later we have him killing like
children,
Padawan children, and I'm like, you're like, okay, much later on down the line.
So, actually, we should have a discussion what we think. Like, so here's my thing about what I think Darth Vader is. So, you've heard of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? You've heard of that, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to Anakin being Darth Vader, I think what it is that like mentally and physically they're the same people, but I think like spiritually, they're two different people. Because do you think like Anakin would go like murder children, choke Padme out, and like do all this wild shit? Because Anakin has a bit of Darth Vader in him, and Darth Vader has a little bit of Anakin in, but like spiritually they're two different entities. Because
completely.
Do you think Anakin would murder his friends, choke Padme out, non-consensual chokeout session, try and do all this shit? Like, no, Anakin would never do such things. I think Darth Vader would.
I think. Yeah, well, here's the thing too: is that like as far as like the friends, I think. Well, I guess it would also depend on, like who we're about. But if he was in the kind of situation like he was with Mace Windu trying to kill Palpatine, I could believe that he would do something like that. Because again, the great thing about like that fall is that he's a good man in a bad situation who is now being forced to be the accomplice of this. Like the guy who is pulling the strings for both trilogies, basically. Yep. And that's the thing is, if given any other choice, though, he would not have killed Mace Windu. No. If he was given a choice, he would have Palpatine arrested, so that way they can keep him alive, put him on trial, they can judge him accordingly, and during that time he can maybe find out a little bit more about the Force to be able to, the stuff that Palpatine knows about, so that he can save Padme's life. But he did not want to join Palpatine after learning he was a Sith. He didn't want to
become a Sith Lord. Like, and that's what makes
he was forced to.
Yeah, and I would say like because he's given into his fear basically. Like he's not eating right, he's not sleeping well. He cares so much about Padme. And, like, he has this dragon, the fear of the dark side, just closing around him. Like, the books are claustrophobic, man. Like, you feel, like, the fear and the dragon that's consuming him, right? But, like, I mean, and this is really the crux of Anakin Skywalker, and I think Hayden Christensen said it, like, I think a lot of people, if they were really honest with themselves, probably would have done the same things that he did. Maybe not to the same extremes, but I think, like, a lot of people, I mean, it also goes into the argument, we're going into the moral argument of, what would you do to save someone's life if you knew someone was going to die? Although, the funny thing, the really fucked up thing is that, like, if Anakin had made the right choice, would have Padme died? That is the question. Would she have actually died? Because, it's very much implied that, his actions is what killed her. And, what happens next is, like, the fucking classical tragedy, battle of heroes, lava fucking planet, like, and, John Williams fucking cooks.
Oh, yeah, completely. It is just some of the stuff that, like, happens afterwards. I feel like if they had to have him kill Padawans, and, like, especially, like, killing the other Jedi, It should have been like a kind of situation where he felt
But so fun fact
too,
of the
and
movie,
then
there was originally in the movie they're actually going to show the entire like Order 66 massacre in the temple, like him like chopping people up and like choking someone, stabbing someone, and all that shit. And then like the fucking producer were like, no, that's too hardcore, and it's like, oh, fucking gay.
so we're gonna have him kill Padawan children.
Yes, we can show that.
Yeah, we can show. Well, granted, they don't show it, but like they heavily imply it. But like they don't show him like killing anyone.
I would agree that I think him killing the clones could have just done that easily. Like
oh, absolutely.
In Revenge of the Sith, you know who his first Jedi killer is? Like basically some random like guy walks out the door and sees like Anakin with the clones. It's like, oh, Anakin, what's going on? And the next thing this guy knows and realizes he's got like a light, his Anakin's lightsaber through his skull. And Anakin just says like, you have no idea. And strolls right in as epic music plays in the background, like dun dun, and the Jedi's like, "Wow, this epic music is just playing in the background as clone bands."
Why do I hear boss music?
And then you just see like,
"Hey, Anakin, you have a health bar on the bottom screen. What's that about?"
And then like a battalion of clones just start pouring in. Also, another fun fact about that temple scene: if you listen really carefully, you can hear like clicking noises. Those are the clones turning the safeties off.
Oh.
Because fun fact, a lot of those blasters have stun features, because I think like a lot of like blasters in Star Wars have stun features as well, where you can like stun people with them, so you can hear like the clicking noises and then turning off their. But anyway, so like yeah, Revenge of the Sith is a crazy fucking movie, and the book like elevates it to a fucking masterpiece. Yeah, like especially like the yeah, we should talk about the Padme deleted scenes. So where she's like setting up like the rebellion. I think the book does a lot of a better job of her character because it gives her more stuff to do. I'm still a little. I still don't understand why she didn't think that maybe like the second that Anakin got back, they should have left for Naboo immediately. But I can understand why they didn't do that because like there's just a bunch of crazy shit going on. But I think the book does a lot better job of her character. But the other thing, but yeah, I think Revenge of the Sith is like, a polished diamond in the rough, like. But I think the book elevates it to a fucking masterpiece. Like I read this book and I was just like, holy shit. Like, I couldn't put it down.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense, too, because, like, Revenge of the Sith, out of all of them, just potential. Just a lot of stuff.
That, and like, I think it just should have been longer as well. I think it just should have been longer, and also may have needed, like, another edit or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, really could be said about, like, any of the prequels, but, like, especially Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, we've almost been going on 2 hours. Let's move on to some meta topics and then wrap this video up. So
yeah, all right. So
let's start off. Okay, most of these actually tie in together, right? But like, I think the main thing we should tackle first is Anakin and Padme's relationship. All right, I think that's the first thing we should really tackle because this is kind of like one of the major character arcs here. So I just want to ask you a quick. Because I have some theories too, and some other, like, I was reading a bunch of Tumblr blogs too as well that kind of, helped me recontextualize some things. This is also an opinion I came to do, just like, thinking about things and also reading other people's thoughts on this. So, I would like to ask you, why do you think they're into each other? Or why they like each other so much? Like, what do you think the reason is? Just based on these movies.
Based on these movies, personal experience, I'm not a romantic. I could not even begin to fathom, and like especially just from what I've seen in like Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, keep in mind, you got the scene where she says that like you're making me uncomfortable. The reason why she's saying that is because she's actually like fucking falling head over heels for him.
Yeah, and she understands that like they can't be together because she's a senator, he's a Jedi. Tons of reasons why they can't really be together, and yet here they are.
She takes them on romantic. Like, listen, if she's really creeped out to them, why is she taking them on romantic picnics?
Yeah, it's. Oh yeah, no, and like the thing that everyone has always talked, the friggin' dress that she wears, like when she's trying to tell him, stop it, Anakin, we can't be together. But I'm gonna.
I do want to. We should mention that, like, just because a woman is dressing sexy around you doesn't mean it's necessarily for you. It could be for other reasons too.
Well, no, absolutely, but it's like she has to understand that.
But in the context of this, but in the context of Star Wars, I do believe it is kind of for Anakin because she is like, her clothing is what she is secretly desiring.
Yeah, like here's the thing too. Yes, I get it. If you dress that way, that does not mean that like you want the person to like you want them to be attracted to you. But like at the same time, if you understand that they are attracted to you. You don't want them to be, but you dress in a way that makes you that. I'm like, that's a very stupid decision on your part if you don't want that to be the case. If you do not want to be together, if you think that like you shouldn't, if you don't want that kind of attraction,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
to me is what's
yeah,
weird.
yeah. But we should preface it. Just because a woman, like this is for the guys in the audience. Just because a woman is dressing sexy around you does not necessarily mean it's for you. Okay, just
No.
bottom line. All right, but like
Yeah.
in the context of Star Wars, it is partially for Anakin. So what do you think the reasons of why they're into each other? Because I think I've got two major reasons that I like to read out to you. Like because I wrote this
Yeah.
stuff
Go ahead.
down.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Um. Uh because obviously if you just based on the movies it doesn't really make much sense, doesn't it? Like it's very like, I think the two main reasons are as followed. The first reason is that both of them are much more alike than you'd first think. Both in terms of personality and overall temperament, they have a lot in common, and the differences they do tend to complement and balance each other out. But the major thing they both share, which I think is important for understanding their love for one another, is that they're both child prodigies. At a young age, they've dedicated themselves to organizations and had to sacrifice personal desires to serve the greater good. Because of that, they are put on pedestals and have to wear masks to the people around him. For example, Anakin as the chosen one, and Padme as Queen/Senator Amidala. But when they're together, they can be their genuine selves. Anakin is Anakin and Padme is Padme, and they find comfort in the fact that they can relate to each other on a level that no one else can. Because both of them know what it's like to give up everything, including personal happiness, for the sake of others, to pretend to be something they're not, or to be surrounded by people who don't understand them. How many people can say they've been the queen of an entire planet at the age of 14, having to be responsible for the fates of billions of people at an age where most people are learning how to be responsible for themselves? Or being told at age 9 that not only do you have the potential to become the strongest Jedi that has ever existed, to the point people look upon you with fear and awe, but also being told that you're the prophesied chosen one who'll bring balance to the Force. I sure as hell can't think of anyone else who fits that description. From my perspective, their love is an escape from all of that. A love that makes them feel like normal people normal people for once, instead of cogs in a galaxy-expanding machine. To me, this is the main core and the emotional glue of their relationship, and partially the reason why they're so into each other, to the point why they act like a bunch of love-struck teenagers who are about to dip their hands in the cookie jar. So that's the first.
Makes sense.
So that's the first reason. Here's the second reason, and basically this is like a comment for a YouTube video I plan on posting on, because there's a podcast I like to watch, and eventually they might do Attack of the Clones. So I've been saving this because it's just like I ended up writing some shit down. You know how it is. Like you just like get a thought in your head, you gotta write it down.
Yeah, I got you.
Second reason delves more into the spiritual, metaphysical aspects of Star Wars. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'll skip this part. Okay, people often overlook this aspect of Anakin. Yes, he is the chosen one, but what does that exactly mean in the context of Star Wars, in the Star Wars universe? Essentially, it implies he is some sort of demigod. And how does this tie into Anakin and Padme's relationship? Simply put, from my perspective, their bonding connection they share is also one they share for the Force itself, and their meeting and falling in love was in part influenced by the will of the Force itself, because the Revenge of the Sith movie and novel outright imply they have a Force bond, or some sort of bond like that. Now, whether or not it was due to Padme at the time being pregnant with Luke and Leia, or they had this from the start due to Anakin's nature as the chosen one, it's hard to blah, 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 blah. Okay, we'll skip this part. Right, while the fear of losing her was the catalyst for his turn to the dark side and becoming Darth Vader, and later her undying love and belief that there's still good in him became the reason for his redemption through the son Luke, I can't help but wonder if she would have become the catalyst for him in an alternate timeline where Anakin doesn't fall to the dark side and instead becomes the ultimate redeemer and savior of the Jedi, and to a lesser extent the Republic, which is what I think the Force originally wanted and intended when it put them together, because without Padme, I believe there would have been less motivation for him to turn to the dark side or become a messiah-like figure akin to a living god. So
yeah, makes sense.
So those are just kind of my thoughts. Like, do you think I'm blowing smoke on my ass, or do you think they kind of make sense? Because I don't want to be like...
I feel like that can make sense to a degree. Yeah, I mean, I'd buy it.
Look,
but there's never really been a time when I
think there's other reasons for it too, right? But I think that's the reason why they gave it. Because I think what originally was supposed to happen, right, is that she was... Like... Because, okay, if you read the... I'm just going to mention this, right? So even though I don't think, like, the state of the relationship was, like, the most healthiest at times... I don't think it's entirely their fault. Having a marriage where you have to hide it from your friends and family, spend weeks if not months apart due to the war effort or Senate politics, and then have to cram weeks if not months worth of normal couple stuff into the few days you actually have time to spend together before the next insert galactic crisis here. And then to top it off, you have on the one side the Jedi Order telling you that your love for each other is wrong, aka a Jedi shall not know anger, nor hatred, nor love. And on the other side, you're having a Sith Lord who's been grooming you both from a young age, and his plan to destroy you isn't doing them or their marriage any favors. So, even though I don't think, like, the state of the relationship was, like, the most healthiest at times, I think it's very clear that most of this is because of like the circumstances of the environment, at least from my reading of it. Because as someone who has seen like unhealthy relationships,
Yeah.
like in real time, or seen relationships go bad, right? You know, I don't think it's necessarily them as a couple. Like, I don't think that like them super being really into each other is like exactly a problem here, because there are some people who are just really into each other. Like that is a
Oh
fact.
yeah.
Like there are people who are
I
really into
have
each other.
never I like I have never, even if there were parts about the relationship trade better, I don't think there has ever been like a time when I felt like I could not believe that these two would get together and that their love would be strong enough for at least it to influence him the way that it did in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, like
it's
yeah,
never been like a question of like whether or not I could believe it, and just always just a matter of any problems that I did have are a matter of like, oh, I feel like this thing could probably been
yeah,
executed
it wasn't
better. This could have been
explained.
done.
It wasn't explained. Yeah. I mean, I might
Yeah.
like cut the stuff out, but basically, like my kind of thoughts are that even though their relationship wasn't like in the healthiest states at times, I don't think it's entirely their fault. Like it's due to the circumstances and environment. I think most of these issues are like circumstances and environment, because if you take away from the Clone Wars, Palpatine influences and shit like that, all you have is two people who are like really into each other. And I think like the real tragedy here of their relationship is they never really got the time to really sort out their issues. Like I think that's the real tragedy here.
Yeah.
Because I think I mentioned this. Yeah, I think where it is. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, I don't think it's great that whenever a major issue comes up between them, they tend to hug and kiss out instead of having an honest discussion about. It. Nor is the growing mutual possessiveness and codependency they have for each other. Like I don't think that's exactly great. But like it's not like this could have been fixed or course corrected. But the issue is they never got that chance. They never got that chance. They never got the happy ever after they wanted. Yeah, because I think like
Yeah.
after the Clone Wars wrapped off, they fucked off in Naboo, and they managed to sit down and talk this shit out, and raise Luke and Leia. I think they would have turned out fine. I think things would have turned out fine.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, I think they would have been
But
fine. I think things would have been
like I
fine.
definitely, it kind of like you said, them not like talking through their issues or stuff like that. And in fairness, like some of it could have also just been because of like the general secrecy that they've been trying to maintain.
Yeah, that too.
Like
As
I
well.
think
Like,
about, like the reveal that she was pregnant, and like the emotions of that scene are very mixed. Like he is trying to make it sound like this is good because he wants it to be good, but like really this can be a bad thing if it gets out. And then she asks him like, "What are we gonna do?" And he's just like, "This is a happy moment. Let's keep it happy. We'll figure it out, when we get to it." There's not really like any kind of discussion about it. It's just, and again, that is how I would expect them to act, because like when you are trying to keep this relationship a secret to such a huge degree, I imagine that is going to
you
affect.
can't keep it secret when she's pregnant with twins, because like I can imagine they'd keep it secret. They're like, wow, Senator Amidala had these two powerful children, really, because I think like Luke and Leia are like just as powerful as Anakin, or like half as powerful as Anakin. Like in terms of like metachlorian counts, but they have like the same potential. I don't know, I forget. But like Luke and Leia are really strong in the Force, like almost equal to Anakin. And aren't like the Jedi Council be like, that's really weird. Senator Amidala had twins, really powerful Jedi. And they also look a bit like Anakin Skywalker. What's going on here?
Sister, you have a twin sister.
Really weird. But like, yeah, I just don't think the movie does like a great job of explaining their relationship, right? Because I think there's a lot of depth here. Like I said before, like I think a lot of it's more implied. But like when you read the books and you kind of get more of her POV as well, it kind of brings things into context.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. The other funny thing about the relationship was kind of funny. I kind of have some issue how like the Clone Wars portrays the relationship. We'll move on to the other meta topics because we'll wrap up soon. But the funny thing is that like the impression you get from reading the EU is that like Padme's the one who wears the pants in their relationship, and you've got like, it's kind of impressive that she has this demigod wrapped around her fucking finger.
It is kind of, yeah.
Yeah, like I think she literally describes him as like actually. Let me just read another excerpt from the book where she describes Anakin, because I think it's very.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it carries the relationship quite well, because I know a lot of people think they're like abusive and toxic and stuff like that. Like maybe when he became like Darth Vader, you can make the argument, but before that point, okay, things may have not been like the best they could have been, but like it was perfectly functional. But like I'm gonna read out this little excerpt because I think this ties into the relationship quite well. I'm not going to read all of it because it's quite long-winded, but a man who knew exactly what he wanted and was honest enough with it to simply ask for it. A man strong enough to unroll the deepest feelings before her without fear and without shame. A man who loved her for a decade with faithful and patient heart. While he waited for the act of destiny he was sure would someday open her out to the fire in his. Although she loves her husband without reservation, love does not blind her to his faults. She is older than he and wise enough to understand him better than he understands himself. He is not a perfect man. He is prideful and moody and quick to anger, but these faults only make her love him all the more, for his every flaw is more than balanced by the greatness within him. His capacity for joy, generosity of spirit, his passionate devotion, not only to her, but also in the service of every living being. He is a wild creature who has come gently to her hand, a vine tiger purring against her cheek. Every softness of his touch, every kind glance or loving word is a small miracle in itself. How can she not be grateful for such gifts? Also, I should mention this. So, do you know who actually proposed in their marriage proposal? It was actually Padme. So there's a Star Wars book called Clone Wars Wild Space that talks about like just about what happens just after Attack of the Clones, and basically like Yoda suspects there might be something ongoing between Anakin and Padme, and he sends like Obi-Wan to kind of break it off. And so basically Padme fucking lies to Obi-Wan saying like, okay, we'll break this off because they suspect that maybe there might be something going on between them. Not that something is going on between them, but something is starting to happen, right? Like they're getting into like, they're moving from the friend zone to the relationship zone, right? So, Obi-Wan is sent there to break it off. And basically Padme's like, oh yeah, I'll break it off and stuff like that. But like, instead of you telling him, how about you let me take him to Naboo for a bit and we'll have a chat. By the way, Anakin's still in the coma, by the way. And as Obi-Wan left, she's like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking marry him. She's gonna pull a Palpatine, like, Senator, you cannot marry this Jedi. And Padme's like, I will make it. My Majesty, Your Highness, you cannot marry this like 10-year-old slave child. And Padme's like, I will make it legal.
She puts on like a Sith cloak and everything just to like be ominous, and then just takes it off after she says, "I will make it legal." Then goes back to
basically, so I don't think the Jedi suspect. I think some of them may have suspected there was something going on, but I don't think they knew they were married or doing aggressive negotiations together. Basically at the end of Attack of the Clones, they suspected that maybe something was starting, and they thought like, okay, we've nipped it in the bud. They're just friends. But Padme's like, nah, fuck that. I will make it legal. So, and by the way, Anakin's still in a coma, by the way, and she's already decided that nah, we're locked in. This is ride or die. And I'll link you some excerpts from the book if you want to read them. But I mean, she's the one in charge of this relationship. She's the one who wears the pants in. And, like, I must admit, it's actually just kind of impressive that she has this powerful demigod. She's got this fucking demigod wrapped around her little finger. Like, that's fucking impressive. It's like...
Oh, yeah, it absolutely is. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow, that's, like, kind of based. Go, Queen, go. It's kind of based, actually.
And then she dies.
Yeah, and then she dies. We're not going to talk about her death because that's also quite a contentious topic, and we've got to wrap this up soon. Okay.
Yeah, so, and also like I could never watch that scene the same anymore after seeing I forget the artist who made it. I actually think the artist is in the Team Jack server, or sorry, their other. Harder, Annie. Like they look. Oh no, Annie, you're breaking my heart. Anakin and Obi-Wan just like look at each other like.
Yeah, imagine if that fucking happened, right? Like he's like all this dramatic music plays off, and then you just hear like he's choking it, and then you just hear this like harder, and it's like. And it's like
so fucking silly.
And it's just like, wait, what? It's like, but yeah, you heard the lady like hard. It just you're like you heard her.
Oh
harder.
God.
She needs more.
I can never watch that scene the same anymore.
Oh, it's so fucking.
Thanks, it's whoever made that.
Yeah, it's like I think it was like CEO of MILFs or something like that. But like, just imagine it, all this dramatic music, and you just hear like harder. Huh? Like
what?
Okay. Now let's move on. Now, let's go to the next topic because I've got it pinned. We'll breeze through this quickly. Now, well, these two topics tie into each other. Do you think Anakin's fall could have been prevented, or do you think this was predestined? Like this is
Oh,
this
it absolutely. Well, I mean, part of that's why like Duel of the Fates is so cool. Is that well? I mean, I guess it also depends on like what by destined in general. Like if all the stuff that
by
it
destined
could
is
have.
like this is what it was meant to happen. This is what the Force intended. Like there's not or this was the result of people's choices basically.
It was well, it would depend on whether or not like everything else that allowed this to happen was also destined. Like was Qui-Gon's death destined? And honestly, since that's the first movie of like the whole, well, maybe say the whole series, but
Well,
like chronologically, the first movie in the whole movie series. Like it's hard to really say that for sure. I personally
do
don't
you want
think
me to?
that
Do you want
it
me to?
was destined.
Yeah, do you
I
want me to
feel
bring up a
like
point?
I think you can make a really good argument that it was destined after episode 1 because Qui-Gon's death is definitely like the quintessential most important thing that would have prevented Anakin's fall to the dark side and may have also prevented like a lot of others. Even if like the Jedi still fell, it probably would have like prevented the Empire from rising, I feel, just
Yeah, I
because of
definitely
like
think
how
if Qui-Gon
influential.
Jinn was around, I think like
Well, not even just Qui-Gon, but like the fact that you have a proper master for the Chosen One to now be on the side of the Jedi. That's the most important thing. It's not just the fact that Qui-Gon is alive, but that someone who can properly train Anakin
yeah,
to
and even
be
though
a
yeah,
powerful weapon for good and for the
yeah,
Jedi
and here's the thing,
when the Sith do their thing.
and here's the thing with like Anakin, like yes, he does have issues with attachments and stuff like that, but we'll go into that in a bit later. But like so in the Phantom Menace book, they actually reveal that Anakin has dreams, and one of his dreams, he has a dream where he leads an army to free the slaves of Tatooine. Like I think one of these talks about where he's charting out navigating starships. And then the other one talks about where he's leading a massive army to free the slaves of Tatooine. So, and then there's another dream where he's fighting dark creatures and stuff like that. So I think it's heavily implied that Darth Vader was one possibility out of many. And this is what I partially think what the Force intended, and I think this is what, like, this ties into Anakin and Padme's relationship. Like, Padme was to be the counterbalance to Anakin, essentially. Like, she was to be the light to his darkness. Like, she was there to balance him out, to help him become the savior he was always meant to be. Because he has a dream where he becomes a general leading armies to free the slaves, and I can't help but wonder if that army wouldn't have been the clones.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because the thing about like the 501st is not only are they loyal to Republic, they're specifically loyal to Anakin as well. And if you read some of the books, Anakin can tell the difference between every single individual clone, and he can also sense when all of them die too. He can sense when they die.
Now, granted, the 501st are only like that loyal to Anakin because I imagine that like Palpatine wants it to be the case. So like if in this alternate universe where like he felt they would be much more.
They're also personally loyal to him.
Oh, I gotcha. Well, I guess it also depends like how much.
Not only are they loyal to like Anakin, like not only they're loyal to General Skywalker and the Republic, but they're loyal to like Anakin as a person. Like his relationship with the clone is really personal.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that like in this alternate universe where Anakin would have been significantly more insidious to manipulate him to the dark side, he probably would have not excluded him from like the little control chips that were placed in all the clones. And like at that point, any kind of like personal connection that they would have had would have been moot. Yeah. But like, I don't think that would have made a difference. I think that Anakin still would have, like, even with or without the clones, if Anakin was full on, on the light side, he was trained properly by Qui-Gon, he was kept in check by Padme, and he was all for the Jedi. They would have stopped Sidious before the Empire was formed.
Yeah. And what I think, like, what he's supposed to be... So, have you heard of a character called Darth Revan?
The name... Oh, was he from the...
He's KOTOR.
The old...
What I think, like, Anakin was supposed to be, right, is almost like the ultimate great Jedi, right? Like, he's supposed to be the light and the dark. I think that's what he's supposed to be, right? Like, I don't necessarily think he's supposed to be, like, a Jedi, necessarily. Like, yes, he should be trained, but I don't think he necessarily needs to be trained the Jedi way, And I think this goes on to the nature of the prophecy of the Chosen One, and we might talk about this more when we get to, like, the original trilogy. But, what I think is interesting is that no matter what, like Sidious did, Anakin still fulfilled the prophecy of the Chosen One. Even as Darth Vader, he still fulfilled the prophecy. Because Anakin will destroy the Sith.
The prophecy, the Return of the Jedi more than shows that. There was really not. And here's the thing, too. I think the very fact because even though that like there seems to be like a sense of destiny in the series, I think there is, like you're saying, there is very clearly like a malleability to like certain possible outcomes, even though like there are some outcomes that are significantly more likely than that are in a sense encouraged by, I guess, the Force, or like can be foreseen by the Force and that kind of thing. Because if it was 100% known that like the that Anakin would bring balance to the Force, then like if that was just a 100% certainty thing, the Jedi would not have like turned down his training so much. But also Sidious would have been like, you know what? Nope, fuck this shit. I'm out.
Here's the thing. The Sith know about the prophecy. By the way, he even mentioned this in the Revenge of the Sith book. Like, oh, you don't think the Sith don't know about this prophecy? Like, it's an ancient prophecy. Yeah. Like, it's been around for thousands of years. And like, I mean, that's why Sidious tries to corrupt him basically, because he thinks that he can subvert the Force. Because, like, Sidious wants immortality, he's greedy, he thinks he's the greatest Sith Lord ever, and he wants to subvert the Force, and the Force is like, nah, bitch, nah,
yeah.
Yeah, like, even as corrupt as Anakin became when he became Darth Vader, you know, he still fulfilled the prophecy, and...
Yeah.
And also, fun fact, also because of Padme, because, like, so they mentioned this in the books, too, is that when Luke is being, like, electrocuted, he has memories of, like, Padme's surface, like, come to the surface, and he's like, oh my god, my son loves me, I broke his mother's heart and I fucking killed her, and, like, as he's watching Luke getting killed by Sidious, he's having flashes of, like, Padme and Qui-Gon Jinn in his mind, but it was mostly, like, Padme, because it's like, yeah, he can't let Luke die, he can't let Padme's son die.
Yeah, God, it's... I gotta rewatch the original trilogy. I don't know if we'll do a video on that.
But like, yeah, like, because I've seen a lot of people on YouTube being like, "Oh no, this was predestined to happen. He was a bad egg from the start." Like, no, he was not a bad egg from the start. He was not evil from the start. Like, yes, Anakin has problems. I think we can all admit that yes, Anakin definitely has some problems. However, you know, these problems were. We should mention that these problems were made worse because he got groomed by a Sith Lord since age 9 or 10.
Yeah, basically, and Qui-Gon wasn't there to do anything about it.
Like, listen, Padme and Obi-Wan did their best, but like, I'm afraid that, like, you know, I mean, that's why Sidious tries to corrupt his relationships between them, because he knows that, like, if he wasn't having those visions, if it came to choosing between Sidious, like Palpatine, and Anakin and Padme, he would pick Obi-Wan and Padme all the time. He'd always pick them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, because listen, we're not going to excuse what Anakin does, because, you know, people are responsible for their choices. However, you know, people do not make choices and decisions in a vacuum. You know, they do it for reasons, whether it's rational or not. And, you know, he was groomed into this. Like, his worst tendencies are being brought out by the war and Sidious and all this stuff.
I completely agree. I don't think that this was destined at all.
Yeah, I think this is just... And that's why it is a tragedy, because it didn't have to be... And
yeah, exactly.
Going into, like, contributors to Anakin's fall, we should talk about, like, the failures of the Jedi and the Republic as well. So... how do you think the Jedi Order failed Anakin, and how could they have prevented that? Where do you think the Jedi went wrong with Anakin, right? Because, you know, as I've stated, you know, Anakin is responsible for his decisions. However, you know, there are contributing factors here, and, you know, we have to talk about the Jedi too, because they are also partially responsible for this as well.
I guess it also kind of... there's, like, an overlying implication that the Jedi Order has also gotten, like, complacent through the years, that they are... I don't know if it's necessarily as implied that, like, they are falling victim to the same kind of corruption as, like, the rest of the Senate. But I believe that's something that they're trying to communicate along. I would say that, like, that is in part, like, that same kind of, like, complacence on, you know, peace and getting a little bit meta. But, like, I know that this isn't really, like, a part of it. The fact that they don't, you know, do anything about, like, the knowledge of the clones and how they, you know about the conspiracy, have everything, like, pointed out to them, and they don't really, like, do anything about that. There's clearly a level of, like, complacency on their part. And I feel like in some way that bleeds over into how they had been bringing up Anakin. Anakin needed a better mentor, I think, for thing.
Yeah, like,
he needed someone to
like. Here's the thing. So the thing about with Anakin, right, is I think the Jedi Council are also afraid of him, like, fear of his potential power. Like, there is that fear aspect, but well,
that was the reason why. They didn't want him to be a part of the Jedi in Episode 1, is because they were like, yeah, you are extremely powerful. That is why we don't want to bring you in when you're already too old. Had, like, emotions. You are being driven by fear and doubt, and that can be very dangerous that can be even more dangerous with the amount of power that you will have growing up.
I'm going to bring out an excerpt from the book, right? So this is when Yoda's talking to Qui-Gon during Revenge of the Sith. This is what Yoda says. Too old I was, Yoda said. Too rigid, too arrogant to see that the old way was not the only way. These Jedi I trained to become the Jedi who had trained me long centuries ago. But those ancient Jedi of a different time they were. Changed has the galaxy. Changed the order did not. Because I did not let it change. I did not. More easily said than done, my friend. So, like, he basically... Like, I think Yoda basically admits that, like, you know, I didn't let the order change. You know, I mean, the dogmatic side of the Jedi, and we can kind of go more. We're not going to go to because we're almost going to 2 hours.
Well, yeah, and like the whole thing about like you know, because while they are correct to a degree, like you know, having allowing your emotions and your feelings to guide your actions is a very like when you are as powerful as the Jedi is a very quick way to become.
Something. I just want to hold that thought. So. I think I mentioned this on a YouTube comment once. Like, what I think, what the Jedi is supposed to mean by you don't have no attachments. It's not. I think what they're supposed to mean is that not that you shouldn't care about things, but know that these things are temporary. You know, because people and things will leave your life, right? You know, people will die or you know suffer accidents. Like you know, sometimes there are just people you can't save. When those people leave your life, you know, you let them go, right? And I think the Jedi took that quite literally, right? Like, oh, you know, because the thing with the Jedi is they don't allow any attachments. It's not that they didn't... It's not like, oh, they wouldn't allow Anakin and Padme to have a relationship because Anakin had an unhealthy attachment style. Like, no. They're against any attachments. Friendship, love, all that shit. It's attachment. You can't... And the thing is that what the Jedi don't understand is love and attachment are two different things, right? You can love someone and let them go.
That is exactly it, because, like, again, it is not hard to understand how, like, really any kind of amount of attachment can...
And the Jedi aren't wrong. Like, listen, if you're as powerful...
Well, yeah, because it goes hand in hand with, like, the phrase, you know, ultimate power corrupts... absolute power corrupts absolutely. Because, like, when you allow yourself to be manipulated by... the things that you desire, which in some cases can be, you know, go hand in hand with the kinds of things that you care about, then that can leave you susceptible to using your powers in ways that are irresponsible and evil to a degree, even if you don't think they are.
I mean, and this is what... and this whole shit also ties to Anakin and Padme's relationship in a way, right? Is that, you know, they weren't allowed to have their love in a healthy way, and then it turned into a non-consensual chokeout session on Mustafar. Right? Like, you know, he wasn't allowed to, because you know they never sat him down, like because they never sat him down and told him like, listen, it's okay, you care about this woman, it's cool, you love her, but if she dies, you got to learn to let her go, because like here's our thing is that like even though she may leave you, right, the love you have for her will never leave you, right? Like that. And
this is what's so great too about like how this theme of like attachment and stuff like that goes hand in hand with like the original trilogy, because the whole reason why Darth Vader was convinced to fulfill his duty, like fulfill the prophecy and turn on Darth Sidious, was because Luke refused to kill his father, even when both Yoda and Obi-Wan were repeatedly telling him, nearly gaslit him into killing his father without him ever knowing and manipulating him the whole time and never telling him about that. He refused to turn on his father because he saw good in his father, and it was because of that attachment that he had to a man who he never even knew as a kid growing up.
Here's the thing.
It was because of that. That love that he had for his father was
Luke
what
has
saved
no
him out.
reason to love his dad. I mean, same with Leia. Like they have no reason to love their dad because of the monster that he's become. I mean, eventually, even Leia forgives Darth Vader in the like. Even Leia forgives him, but this is like EU stuff going in. But like, here's the thing: Luke has no reason to love his father, and Darth Vader has no reason to love Luke or Leia. He has no reason to. But Luke is like, hey, I forgive you for all the unspeakable things you've done, and I want to try and like, be the person that my mother saw in you. Like that, be the hero that, Padme, and what's also great about that is that Padme was proven right in the end, vindicated and vindicated.
Yeah,
she can't stop winning. She can't stop winning, even in death. She can't stop winning.
No, and that's why.
You know what's really funny, and this is like I think a thing that was brought up on Tumblr. I almost said Tinder for a second because fucking Tumblr, spoke Tumblr, right? Is it's actually, if you really think about it, like Sidious got beaten by both Anakin and Padme, because you think about it, like Padme literally set up the architecture for the rebellion and all that. Like you could say. I mean, I think it's really ironic that Sidious got defeated by the children of the two people he grew.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's almost like
Yeah.
poetic irony. It's like, yeah, these two people that you groomed and fucked over, right, and got your ultimate revenge. Well, their kids showed up and they beat the crap out of you. It's like, man, like even from death, like Padme just won't stop winning. No
God,
matter what he did, he could never get rid of her. Even in death, he
basically.
still haunts his nightmare. Like he is still haunted by Across the Stars that plays in his nightmares.
Yeah, and it's one of the kinds of things like because I distinctly recall some people criticizing the way that the Jedi are portrayed in the prequels as like trying to avoid any and all attachment of any kind when really that aspect, whether or not you want to say like it's executed well or not, because it probably could be executed better.
Yeah, I was reading this. I was reading this
But
blog
like
by this
well,
guy called like
it's
the Thinking Buddhist, right?
well,
He's got. You. Sorry, I cut you off. You continue.
yeah, sorry. All I was gonna say was just that, like, even like putting aside any like aspects that could be improved about it, is just the fact that like it adds so much to the original trilogy, and like at the end of the day, that's what a prequel should do. The fact that it adds so much to that conflict between Luke and Darth Vader, and the conflict of whether or not he should kill his father, being gaslit by Obi-Wan and Yoda. It adds that much more, like, and that's why it feels so integral to the prequels, and executed well or not, it was a good addition. I feel
Yeah.
it was wise to include it. I should
because
say.
the thing about the Jedi, right, is that like, yeah, I think they mean well, but I think they're just flawed. Like everyone else in the prequels, they're flawed.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's the point. There was actually an interesting blog I read, I think by some Tumblr user called The Thinking Buddha, that talks about like attachment, stuff like that. I don't agree. Like, keep in mind, some of these blogs I'm going to be linking, I don't exactly agree with everything they state, but like they do raise some like interesting food for thought, so that's why I'll link them below, because I think it's an interesting discussion. But like, yeah, like I do think where the Jedi kind of failed is like, this should have been a group project, right? Like the whole council should have been teaching him, training him. This should have been a group project, not just Obi-Wan. And also,
yeah.
They let a politician have unsupervised access to a young boy. Like, listen, if I was the Jedi Council, it's like, yeah, Palpatine, you can hang out with him, but we're gonna have a Jedi with you watching, making sure. We're not gonna have any like Uncle Bad touch or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can just agree the sound. Okay, we'll just wrap up in a second. Okay, I think we can both agree the soundtrack is great. Like, Across the Stars is a beautiful theme.
Oh yeah, completely. Completely agree.
Now, acting and dialogue.
I think we've kind of like got like there's definitely some lines that are definitely stand out, but there's also a lot of them that's just kind of like, is this really how George thought humans talked?
I think we already covered that at the beginning.
Yeah,
I think that's basically like, I don't think there's much we can talk about. We've gone on for almost 2 hours.
Yeah, it's the prequels, dude. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot and I just want to mention, like, there's so much shit to talk about. And here's the thing: me and Pete aren't lore experts. Like, I have a decent understanding of lore, and Pete probably knows a little bit as well, but we're not lore experts. So,
oh no, I've not even played Knights of the Old Republic. Like, the most of my experience has just been with like the movies, and some side shows, cartoons, stuff like that. I've not even read any of the book adaptations.
All the EU books, right? So
yeah,
if we get some things wrong or misplace a few things, sorry, but this is a franchise that's been going on for almost like 40 plus years. There's like tons of books and comics. I haven't read them all, and I can't. And some of them are, but yeah, I hope everyone here just enjoyed this discussion. And me and Pete might be back to do the original trilogy at some point, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of up in the air at this point. Not quite sure, but.
But I hope everyone here enjoyed this discussion, and I'll see you all guys later. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.
Yep. Stay platinum.
Yep, stay platinum. 3, 2, 1, stop.